Hello, everyone. Welcome to Developing Palates. I'm Aaron Loomis, and with me, as always, is June Liu. How you doing, June?
Fantastic. I'm in the office conference room. I would rather be nowhere else in the whole world.
Of course. For those of us that have day jobs outside of the cigar industry, I think the worst thing was going back to work after a week in Vegas, right?
Sucked, man.
So tonight we're doing cigar media recap for IPCPR 2017. So we have a nice crew of guys here tonight for that. So we'll start introducing. I'm going to introduce them as I see them on my screen. First, we got John Reiner from Cigar Federation. How you doing, John?
Good, man. Thanks for the invite. Always like to do a recap show, and appreciate being on with some good names here. I feel like I'm in some stiff competition, some stiff crowds here.
Yeah. So what are you smoking and drinking tonight?
Well, I'm going old school, as it were, with the FTA. I'm going with the Lancero because Lanceros will never die, and it's the Protocol Probable Cause. Got to go with that probable cause, and I feel like this cigar really needed some strong whiskey tonight. And I know that some other viewers here have perhaps sampled this, and this is a private cask Tomatin 1993 single cask. It's 22 years old. It is bottle 87 of 572, and it comes in at a whopping 60.4%. So by the time we get around to the hard-hitting questions, that should be nice and loose.
Fantastic. That's the best time.
Are you is that cigar going to be rated 120 or 130, John? What do you think?
Well, I mean, I think Rob would have rated it like a 62. So, I think that's like, what, a Surgeon 97 or something like that, I think.
Sounds about right.
Hey, one is looking for it.
Yep. All right, next we got Eric, Master Sensei from Cigar Dojo. How you doing, Eric?
Good, Aaron. June, how you guys doing, man? I'm psyched to be on the show. Thank you guys for having me, man. I'm pumped.
Absolutely. What are you smoking and drinking tonight?
So I'm smoking one of my favorite new cigars, the Ritmo by Avo. You guys had this yet?
Not yet.
Tastes like bananas and fruit salad. It's delicious. And I'm drinking some craft beer. I got some craft beer going here. It's called Coors. I don't know if you've heard of it.
The banquet beer.
And then I'm drinking some bourbon, which is part Old Forester, part Booker's, and I'll explain that later if you're interested, but not right now.
Okay. All right. Next we got William Cooper from Cigar Coop. How you doing, Will?
Hey, Aaron. Hey, you guys. Thanks for having me on today.
Absolutely. I know you're probably drinking Diet Pepsi or Diet Coke, but what are you smoking tonight?
I'm actually drinking a cup of coffee because I'm pretty tired. But I am smoking a cigar. It's a pre-release, and it was the cigar formerly known as The Truth, and it's now called the A.J. Booth and Caldwell cigar.
Yeah, it was interesting that the name was announced a couple days before, and then kind of went away after that.
Yeah, folks saw the Cigar Aficionado article. There was a picture of a cigar that was called Hit and Run, but that wasn't the one done by AJ. This was the one done by AJ, and it was supposed to be called The Truth. And then when we got to the booth, the name was crossed out of The Truth because they weren't allowed to use it.
Do you know what they're going to rename it to?
I don't. I don't think they knew. I think this kind of hit them pretty suddenly that they had to change the name.
Yeah.
Maybe like urinal face or something.
We'll definitely, I think, be getting into that.
All right. So basically what we're going to do tonight is we're going to hit some topics, talk about the trade show. It's really all about the trade show tonight, but from a media perspective. So, I'm sure that, you've seen cigar manufacturers, brand owners kind of sharing some of their thoughts, retail owners, things like that. So I want to get a little bit of a media perspective and kind of get some thoughts from all you guys since you all do a great job of covering the show. So the first question I want to ask is, I think we all do something a little bit different when we go to the trade show. So we all have a different kind of coverage style or what our focus is while we're there. So I wanted to kind of check in with you guys what your strategy was this year and how you guys felt that you were able to tackle that. If you think you were successful, if you think you could have done better, or if you think it was a disaster. So whatever you think of how it went. So anyone want to go first? All right, I'm going to say Eric here first.
So yeah, our strategy was the same as last year, which is me and Jordan, we just hit all the booths that we think are important, and we write up little articles that you'll see coming in the next month and a half or so because it worked good for us last year. We don't do video because guys like SigFed and Blind Man's Puff do a better job at that than we do, so we just don't mess with that. So we kind of go the Coop route and do little articles, and it was very tiring, and but we got everything done that we wanted to get done, so we were excited.
Perfect. Will, what about you? What's your coverage, plan like for the show?
Obviously, my focus is on product coverage, typically new product coverage. So that we kind of start that before the show, continue it during the show, and kind of like Master Sense, I said we go after the show with it. And so the focus is obviously to balance it between companies that I have strategic relationships with versus companies I'm trying to build relationships with. And, ultimately there's 3.5 days to cover this at the level I want to cover it. And this year I was very unsuccessful at it. I think I made some mistakes in terms of, I tried to schedule more appointments this year, and I think that ultimately was more of a problem because I wanted to schedule appointments to manage my time, but at the same time, there were people I needed to see to learn about what they were doing that I didn't have appointments with. So ultimately, I think it hurt me this year, and I have to reevaluate that for next year.
Yeah, I think this is probably the year that we had the most appointments.
Yep.
And June and I had talked about that leading into it, thinking like, is this a good idea? Is this gonna handicap us a little bit, having to, hit different booths? And our typical flow was just kind of walk along the aisles and hit the booths that we wanted to hit. And sometimes you have to jump around, and not everybody's always on time and things like that. So you always have some little waste of time waiting for somebody to finish up with the discussion and things like that. So we were kind of unsure how that was going to go. So
did it work? Did it work for you?
I think it worked out. I mean, as always, you have to hit a booth maybe 3 or 4 times sometimes, just because you don't have an appointment and they're constantly busy and things like that. But I think it worked. We didn't hit as many as we wanted. I've never hit it from every year that I've gone. But I think that's just kind of the how it is with kind of using a 2-man group kind of thing and not going solo to different booths. So I think that's just the way it works. And John, you'll probably be able to talk to this because you guys are doing a different level of coverage, and you just had a 2-man crew again this year.
Yeah, so I think this is my 4th show, and I've every year always looking for continuous improvement, trying to learn. I'm such a corporate monkey because I'm always like measuring metrics and trying to see how we could do things better. And I think what we learned certainly from last year's show, and I think the show before that, is that people like Master Sensei, Coop, Half Wheel, Developing Palates, you guys have the article coverage down cold. There's no way we can even remotely touch that. And I think in the past we attempted to kind of provide some of that and do some booth write-ups, and what we quickly learned is, 1, we're not very good at it. 2, we can't touch the coverage that you guys provide, so why bother? Because it kind of takes away from people who are doing a really good job of it. And 3, it's an enormous time sink. I don't know how you guys get out the articles that you do in the time that you do, because our 2 main goals this year was hit the booth list that I came up with and try and balance that quote-unquote work-life balance, but try and balance the show with relationship building after the show. And I was really committed this year to saying we're not going to be in the hotel room past when the show is over. Like, we're going to be in the hotel room for half an hour to change shirts, upload media, and then we're going to go and hit relationship building hard after that. So in that regard, we were very successful. We were also very successful in hitting the metrics I set out. Because, and again, being a corporate monkey that I am, I feel like we've kind of figured out that the maximum booths roughly for a 2-man crew, regardless of whether you're doing interviews, whether you're doing video, whether you're live streaming, blog stream, whatever your content delivery is, it's roughly 65 booths, plus or minus 5 if you have a bad time. So talking about the appointments, 2 things. 1. I think we did a good job of cutting people out that were trying to make appointments, where we said, well, no offense, but you're not big enough to make an appointment with, and we know if we set an appointment with you, you're going to miss that metric, and that's fine. But I have to say, and maybe we'll get into this in a bit, the people that we did set appointments with, it went swimmingly well, like shockingly well, which made a big difference in how the flow of the show went. And so I think we came away from the show very happy with what we accomplished.
Good, and I'm pretty sure that if you asked any of the media guys and they're asking, like, you know, they're trying to do video or whatever, they're trying to aspire to do kind of like the level of work you guys are doing over there. So
Yep.
I'm pretty sure everybody
Well,
says,
thank
all
you.
right, like, that's why I'm not trying to tackle video. Like, there's no point. I don't have the equipment that you do. I don't have the, you know, the on point scheduling and all that kind of stuff and all the technical things that need to happen to make that flow and get them uploaded, and the team that back on the back end that gets all that taken care of. So I think everybody's like shooting for you guys to try to get that level of video coverage, and I'll say audio coverage as well.
Well, I really appreciate that. I mean, that means a lot to us. I don't think we ever come away from a show saying that there isn't things we couldn't do better. I mean, I came away from the show looking up $1,000 gimbals to see how I could counterbalance the camera for less shake and stuff, you know, because that's like, I don't think any of us come away from the show going, okay, well, here's a list of things that I could do better for next time, right? We're all, I think, at our heart trying to drive perfection, if that's even a thing.
Right.
Yeah, John, I got to give it up to you and Trip this year, as well as to Brian Hewitt at Stogie Reviewing. You guys every year capture the pulse of the show. And like Aaron said, I don't even try. I tried to do it one year. It's very difficult. This year I did audio interviews because I had some stuff for the radio. But like I said, I take my hats off to you guys. That's very hard what you guys do.
Wow, we appreciate that love. I mean,
Yeah.
and like I said, you guys put out article content that, you know, frankly, we use. I mean, you guys are the ones we use for reference when we're talking after the show. I mean, we don't have that content, so we have to go to your sites to get that information. I mean, that's, you know, we rely on that. That's critical information for us after the show.
Actually, it's vice versa, because if I took a note and I took the note wrong, sometimes I'll go to the video and I'll see if the person said it during the interview, then I can kind of validate that quickly, because sometimes I can't get a quick answer via email. So it works both ways.
Or it could be like last year where you do an interview with a manufacturer and you get three different explanations on what the blend is and a fourth explanation on the cigar, and you're like, which one of these is correct?
Right. We know which one that is.
All right, so let's get into the meat and potatoes. I think for any of the consumers that are watching, what they want to know is they want to know the cigars, and they want to know the companies, and they want to know the people. So, in regards to booths, companies, people, cigars, things that you found interesting, maybe something that surprised you, something that you were kind of looking forward to that kind of met your expectation, or something that kind of just like threw you for a loop. Any of you guys want to throw out anything that kind of popped out at you and, you know, just kind of made you take a mental note?
Good and bad.
Yeah, good and bad.
All right, so I'd say that obviously it was fun seeing Matt Booth at the show,
Right.
and his vacation from the cigar industry wasn't very long, you know, a couple weeks or whatever. But that was fun, and he had a kind of an interesting like sub booth, you know, off of the Caldwell booth, which was kind of fun with some video games, and that was kind of neat. So I enjoyed that a lot. Some surprises. I thought disappointments were, I don't want to pick on anybody, but like the La Polina booth, I mean, I have no idea what these guys are doing, you know, with this weird candela. It just doesn't fit their brand scheme at all to me. And the new branding with the graphic vistas on the boxes, I'd say that was sort of a big disappointment. I was shocked to see some of the big guys that had literally nobody in their booth. There was nobody at all in the Padron booth. Nobody. And when I went in there day 2, it was a ghost town. A ghost town.
Oh yeah.
And that's day 2 in the Padron booth. And so, you know, I don't know if those guys are, you know, where they're going or what they're doing, but it seemed to me like trouble in Padron land, if you ask me. I don't know.
They had nothing new, and anyone who had nothing new, their booths was sucking. Most of those booths, I should say, were sucking one. I don't want to say all of them. Most of them are.
Yeah.
I mean, I had Falto cigars, and I love their cigars. They were pinging me, basically, please come to the booth the last day. And they've been good to me over the years, and I went there even though they didn't have new product. You know, so I really saw that across the whole show.
Yeah, Coop, just to add to that, sorry, Surgeon,
Go ahead.
but there was a few people that are our buddies, and when they don't have anything new, you know, what do? I mean, you want to give them some love. They're supporting you and everything, but if you don't have literally anything new, not a new size, nothing, not a new brand, nothing, I mean, it's hard to give them any kind of coverage because there's nothing to say, you know?
Especially when you only get 3.5 days. If you're, you know, if that's, it's tough with all the companies still have.
I think it probably forecasts a little bit if people are wondering what future shows are going to be like. If nothing changes with the deeming regs, I think that's probably a pretty clear indicator of what we're going to see in future shows. Sadly.
Yeah.
Yeah, talking about that La Polina, I saw that Candela in there, and I was wondering if that was new or not new because I don't remember hearing about it. I'm assuming it's new.
No, they released it back in March.
Oh,
it looked like a horrible, you know, catalog rip-off cigar. I mean, it doesn't match their brand at all. I mean, I was just like, what? And their booth was completely empty. And we walked in there, and I'm not trying to pick on them. We walked in there, and hey, I get it. I don't consider myself like some sort of superstar or anything like that. But, you know, it's nice to have somebody come up and say, hey, you know, what can we tell you about our brand? What's going on? I mean, nothing. You know, literally no interest whatsoever from any of their salespeople at all. And not only that, we walked down the Fuente booth. I think, what was that, Jordan, day 3? Day 3, we walked down the Fuente booth. There was at least, I don't know, 30 salespeople. Not a single customer in their booth. Not one customer. And they don't even talk to you. Like if you're media, they don't talk to you. They don't care. So guess what? I don't care. If you don't care about me, I don't care about you. I don't care.
That's really, really disappointing because, you know, the Fuentes just don't communicate with the media, and it's a shame. There was an opportunity to do that, and I feel your pain on that booth as well.
Yeah, La Polina is the same for us. I mean, we walked in there, June and I. You can't miss June. He's this huge Asian dude. We're taking pictures. We're taking pictures. We're standing there just with our mouths open, looking at the LP1 and LP2 at the branding that they did. I've never seen branding like that before.
Yeah, it's horrible.
So yeah, no attention paid, nothing. It was a dead time in the booth. It's just I don't know.
I didn't have that experience at the La Polina booth. But, you know, I'm not excusing it either. I didn't have that experience. I understand a little of what they were doing with the LP1 and LP2 now. I think there's a couple of things. There was some old branding they had that was in a similar design style. And Bill Paley last year was very vocal when he said he went and picked up a bunch of predicate blends. Mm-hmm. And he's moving away. This is not the La Polina from 6 years ago. If you're looking for the old Family Series, La Polina, original, this is a different company right now. And I think
if you're looking for that, go to the Cornelius and Anthony booth because that's what La Polina should be, right? La Polina should be the Cornelius and Anthony booth. The LP1 and LP2 look like a horrible Camacho ripoff. It was terrible.
Was anybody else surprised at speaking of Cornelius and Anthony, was anyone else surprised at the size of their booth this year?
Yeah, they were doing great. It looked like to me.
I mean, Steven's doing very well. I mean, he's been in the tobacco business a long time. I wasn't completely surprised, but that booth, the artwork that they've put on, and I complimented Steven and Courtney and Todd on what they're doing. It's great. It's just it's a beautiful that booth should have been in the running for one of the best booths. I was shocked it didn't win. Yeah.
Courtney's great. You can tell that Courtney's influence left La Polina.
Absolutely.
And went to Cornelius and Anthony because you can see it in how professional the C&A booth was.
Exactly. So, June, you've been pretty quiet. What was surprising to you at the show?
A couple of things. It's not really sexy to talk about within boutique logos out there, but within Alec Bradley, I thought it was interesting that they had 4 or 5 releases this year. Whereas last year they didn't come out with anything, right? Especially interesting to try like the upcoming Prensado, was it the Lost Art? I think they called it.
Yep.
So I think that's cool, man. Yeah. Like to just say, hey, you know what? We don't give a shit what the FDA does. We're gonna come out swinging. Like, hey, come out, try all this new stuff. And then another thing is, I realized there's just more and more companies coming out with private coffee blends. So, I think Logan has a good amount to do with this. The ex motherfucking CFO, no CEO, sorry, whatever his name is.
Transitionary.
Transitionary, yeah. So Foundation, Cubano Canyo, Fratello, Luge, it's going to be a thing, I think. I mean, as we all know, coffee pairs incredibly well with coffee. I mean, with cigars, so do it, right?
Yeah.
Aaron, yeah, can I
Go ahead.
Can I give you my thought?
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know. June, were you done? I'm sorry, I got distracted.
No. Please talk.
Okay, I apologize. I think the big surprise for me was Plasencia, the launch of Plasencia. Without a doubt, if you're a large cigar company, that's the way you roll out your company and your cigar. They had a full media launch. 95% of the companies couldn't do it. I get it because it's a bigger, but this is significant because the Plasencias have not had they really haven't had a brand on the market, and now they not only have a brand, but they have a distribution company, and they're introducing some very, very good cigars. And I felt they really came into the show. They put on that media event, and they kind of came in with a bang. And I think they're here. They're going to be here for a long time.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was impressive. I mean, it was one of the classiest booths, I think,
Absolutely.
at the show. It looked really nice.
Yeah,
I think a lot of booths did a good job given the last minute nature of the change of venue. One of the ones that surprised me was Southern Draw Cigars, because we were expecting them to be in the AJ Fernandez booth like they were in previous years. Well, not last year because they had to focus on their brand, but in the year prior to that. And so they actually had their own booth, and it didn't look like something that had been hobbled together. It looked like they had planned from the very start. It was, they had chairs laid out. The booth structure was really nice. It looked like they intended to do that the entire time. We had a couple longtime manufacturers mention that they're really unhappy with how they had originally intended their booth to be faced and ended up getting faced in the wrong direction. So essentially against a wall. Now, granted, they're bigger brands, so I don't know how much that hurt them, but I have to wonder, how much discussion, how much on the ground discussion was there with the committee to say, well, I need my booth faced towards the aisles, not towards the wall. And it seemed like maybe in the shuffle of changing venues, some of that stuff got dropped.
Yeah, I'm not sure how that gets reconciled, but if it was just too short of a time frame, or who was doing the planning there to make that happen. But yeah, I think that there's been quite a few complaints in regards to the booth layout and things like that, and how they get their booths and how they transitioned over from the stands to the convention center.
You know what though? Once you walked in there, you guys, you couldn't really tell whether it was in the sands or the convention hall.
It absolutely had a feel of the trade show.
And I think for me as a media guy, I liked this convention center maybe better because I could drive over there, I could park and real close to the entrance and walk in. Like one day, what did you forget, Jordan? You forgot something. We forgot something. I'm going to blame Jordan. We forgot something. Maybe he forgot his camera. Oh, his badge. His battery ran out of the camera. So we could just drive to the hotel, boom, get it, charge it, come right back. Whereas at the Sands, man, I mean, you guys know that walk around, you can't get there easily. So if you forget something, you might lose 2 hours just like getting out of there and getting back into it. Whereas here, I liked it because we could just boom, boom, zip out, zip back in. I like that a lot better.
Me too.
But with that said, how many of you ended up spending any amount of time at the Westgate?
Nah, none. I stayed at the Golden Nugget and spent every night at Atomic Liquors.
Right.
Yeah, I didn't.
Yeah, we didn't even walk into Westgate, did we, Aaron?
Nope.
No.
Yeah.
We never set foot.
I think Circle Bar by the last night was pretty crowded. If you were when we went there the last night.
Yep, exactly. So one of the booths that kind of surprised me a little bit, and this was a brand that Eric actually turned us on to last year, was Cavalier of Geneva. I don't know if you got a chance to stop by this year, Eric, but last year it was just this little single booth. They just had a couple of folding tables in there, and there's cigars on the tables and stuff like that. And I mean, it was a really classy cigar brand. It was just their first show and things like that. But this year, the booth had exploded, and they had another brand in there, you know, sharing the booth with them, and they come out with a few new brands and things like that. They really jumped up in regards to the size level and the offerings this year. So that was nice to see for me.
Yeah, and another one was Coop's favorite is JRE. I like that booth. Was nice. It was right across from Caldwell. They seem to be banging. Although I will say this, like I think it was Thursday, so it was like day 3. At about 2:00, we went back to Caldwell to hang out, and we were going to meet some of the JRE guys, and they had left. So there was like nobody. Like the people had left, you know. So, but still, it was you know, it seemed like day 1 and 2 they were banging pretty hard, and they seemed to have stuff going.
I don't know. They may have left for a short time because I was there with them on Friday.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe they just had to go to a dinner or something, but they weren't there. But yeah, I love their cigars. I love what they're doing. Everything to me, man, that could be a brand to watch because the cigars are amazing.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and that's an interesting point because they didn't have anything new at the show this year. The only thing that they had changed, I believe, was a little bit of artwork on the box.
Right.
Yeah.
Other than that, it was a new product. But I think it's, you know, they were kind of, you know, they were inside the CLE booth last year, so they kind of didn't have their own identity. Now they're kind of out on their own, so they can have a little bit more presence. And obviously, the name is getting out there, so I think they're getting a little more attention that way.
Right.
So they
still
be able to do that.
Yeah, I've gotten to know Justo really well. He's a great guy. It's Christian Rowe's brother, and he's taken a very slow and patient approach to bringing these brands into the market. They're brands that are going to be here to stay. And like you said, this was their coming out party, so to speak, being in their own booths on their own this year. And they're, you know, so I think that was really their strategy right now, at least go to market this year. And, you know, last year I think they were just part of CLE and they were brands in it. But this year, now they're opening a lot more accounts.
Yeah.
And another thing that I thought was interesting was that the Drew Estate booth seemed to be a little tamer this year.
Yeah.
It was like a machine this year.
Very organized. We were talking about that.
We'll talk about the machine.
Yeah.
We'll talk about the machine a little bit later. But
absolutely.
The bridge was gone. They got the water tower up, which is their whole new marketing thing. Music didn't seem to be as loud and blaring as years past, but it seemed to be.
My audio meter says different.
Okay.
I was hearing 3/4 of the way across the floor. I was still getting that bumping music.
Okay. I mean, I might rather hear that than hear Rocky Patel banging on a drum. So, but. Yeah, it seemed to be a little tamer this year, and that might just be the organization that we'll talk about a little bit later. But before, it's just been super hectic in there, and they got the whole bridge. It took up a ton of space in there, so it was a little bit more. I think that water tower was a little narrower, so you had a lot more floor space and stuff to move around. So maybe it just wasn't as full of the booth itself. So
I was always wondering if they got charged for floor space with that second floor.
No,
I think if they bring it themselves, or I don't know, with the labor union over in Vegas,
you never know.
They could charge you. They could charge you if they charge you by weight and all that other stuff. Then I'm sure.
Yeah, they'll get you paid for it one way or another. Yeah.
God, if they charge by weight, just think what Juan and Bill have to pay. Jeez.
God,
ridiculous.
It's more than a half ton right there.
You guys want to know
any other things that jumped out at you guys?
What?
Anything else that jumped out at you guys from booths or cigars or things like that?
So I was thinking about. I'll ask you guys this: who are some of the people that are like the most welcoming when you come in the booth? And I'll start. To me, like when we walked into the CLE and Asylum booth, like Tom Lazuka, I mean, he just made time no matter what. He just jumps out and makes time no matter what for the media. I like that. I mean, I get it. They're trying to make sales. I understand what the show is about, but the media is important too. And for me, like the guys at CLE and Asylum, especially Tom, just making time, just out of nowhere, we're walking by, kind of grabs you and just says, "Hey, yeah, I want to talk to you. Let's do it." The Villiger guys were great this year. I mean, they got us a bunch of rum, which was nice, and they sat us down with their master blender. They brought him over. They got, they separated him from who he was talking to, brought him over to us. I mean, that kind of stuff, that makes me feel better about their brand. I don't care what anybody says. I'm going to be more interested in what they're doing if they are, friendly towards us and interested in what we're doing.
Exactly. Yeah. I would say, go ahead, John.
Sorry, I was just going to say, I would say overall, maybe more than any year in the past, and I don't know if it's just because maybe they're starting to see the value of media, but I would say this is probably the year where we are the most welcomed in every booth, and that kind of goes back to a little bit of the organization, but I don't think there was really any booths for the most part, 90% of them, that we were in there for a minute or two, and we had a contact, and we were either getting an appointment for come back in half an hour or getting an interview on the spot, and that's been pretty rare in the past. Usually we've spent way too much time standing around in booths. I know business comes, but if there's nobody in the booth, we should have an opportunity to do an interview. And this year, by far, we had the best opportunities, and I felt it was the most welcoming across the floor.
Yeah, I would say Southern Draw is one because Robert was pinned down like every time we went over there, but
Like
his
5
wife
people
Sharon,
deep, man.
yeah, his wife Sharon and all their friends and family that had come out and help. They were super friendly. Anytime you walk by, they asked you how you were doing, and if you wanted a cigar, if you wanted a beer or whatever it was, and they just kind of chat you up for a little while. Is it because we came by a couple times before we actually set an appointment with Robert to sit down with him, and every time it was just that that same kind of family feel type of thing, and that their booth kind of conveyed that as well. It just looked like somebody's backyard that you'd kind of hang out and smoke and drink at. So that was one I thought was really a really friendly booth.
I say last but not least, Espinosa guys.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
awesome.
I mean, when I say Espinosa, I mean the greater Espinosa team, right? Like Cubata Canyo, Moya Ruiz. Like every time I go there, man, like they're just super nice. And
Yeah.
I'm one of those guys where if somebody hands me a cigar, my initial reaction is, "Hey, it's all good, man. I'm not here for freebies." It's not like that, but especially when like Juan and Bill hands me a cigar, it feels welcoming. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah. So.
And I think the design of the Espinosa booth this year was really well thought out. They had couches at both ends of the booth, so I didn't feel quite as pinned in when you walked in there. I mean, they were utilizing that space as best as they could, but it didn't feel as claustrophobic as it's felt maybe in past years.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
What I hope does not catch on, I hope this does not catch on, is what Dion is doing with Illusione, because look, I love him, and he makes some of my favorite cigars in the world. So the guy's a genius. I get it, and I'm not going to say anything bad about his cigars, but I can look at his website 24/7, and that's pretty much all he had in his booth was a giant screen with his website on it. You don't get samples. You can't even look at them. I want to look. I want to look at the cigars. I want to take pictures of the cigars. I want to touch. I want to feel. I want to smell. And he has basically a screen with his website on it. And he made a big point to me, like, hey, we're trying to bring the cigar industry into the digital age. It's so antiquated and all this kind of stuff. But at the same time, hey, this is the show. I mean, I want to see your product, and I hope that doesn't catch on, because I thought that was horrific.
That's the way it is in Canada, isn't it, John?
Yeah, and look at Canada.
Always.
It's terrible. Just kidding.
Terrible. No, I mean, I agree. I think, and again, I think this is probably forecasting the future of the trade show. I think, you got to wonder. Padron will probably always have a presence, even though they don't have anything new. Fuente will always have a presence, even though they don't have something new. But you got to wonder on some of the sort of mid-level, maybe smaller brands, like thinking of the Lucianes and the Viajes of the world, do they even really need to show up at the show? Because, what I heard from a lot of them was, well, we did all our orders on day one, or a lot of our orders were done before we even got to the show. So, really we're just here to be a brand presence. And you got to wonder how long is it going to continue to spend that kind of money and spend that kind of focus to come down to a trade show if there's nothing new to show off at the show?
Yeah, exactly. And I got a question from Jason Raybuck. He wanted to know what you guys thought about the cigarillo-sized cigars. Did you feel like there was a larger kind of layout of those this year?
Welcome to Canadian style, bitches.
So cool. Go ahead. What do you think?
Other than Drew Estate, I thought it was pretty much the same.
Okay.
I think the Drew Estate coming out the 4x, and I'm going to put those 4x32s in that category.
Right.
Because they did a mass, they did most of the lines like that. I didn't really see a big difference with it. Some people seem to think there was. I heard one of the shows seemed to think there were more of them, but I guess I just didn't notice it.
Yeah, I mean, just off the top of my head, the only other one that I can remember was that Alec Bradley is doing the Black Market Punk, which is like a little 4-pack of that.
And they've been around though. The Punk's been around for a while.
Have they been around for a while?
Yeah.
Yeah, and Agio, right? Agio had a bunch of them.
Well, yeah, but that's their bread and butter.
Yeah, that's their business. Yeah.
Yeah.
But no, not really.
I don't think it's anything too wide in regards to that. But I mean, True State put it out enough for everybody, right? So they hit the quota for the show, so nobody else had to worry about it. All right, so let's talk about some notable absences from the show. And you guys can just jump in if you thought. Is there anybody that you were a little bit surprised, even if you knew going into it that they weren't going to be there, like that you just thought it was odd that they didn't show up, or they weren't planning to come to the show? And I know, June, you got a couple if you want to start it off.
New Order of the Aegis, the Guayacon, JSK, Ohana, Kebieta, that whole group. That whole area was incredibly. They were just gone, right? Like none of them were there.
Right.
Which is interesting. I mean, like for instance, like JSK, I understand, right? Like Mercedes got his like regional following. He does all these like cool cigar dinners and whatever. So I get that. But the other guys, just Noel Rojas in general, right? Like why he's not there. Cordoba Morales wasn't there as well. And he made one of my top 10 cigars last year with the Santa Fe, right? So it was disappointing to not see him in his presence. And last but not least, and everybody knew about this, is Recluse. So Scott wasn't there, but my understanding is was it because of California something related, right? Was it the taxes or something? I forget.
Yeah, I think he said that it was due to the California tax and the fact that a lot of the retailers weren't going to be coming to the show, that he wasn't going to show up. Now that may or may not be the case due to some other issues that popped up prior to the show, but I think I still have to wait for all the information to come out on that to see if that's the case. Any other ones from you guys that you thought that were interesting that they weren't showing up?
The big one, I think there were a few. Maya Silva.
Yep.
Not at the show. They a few years ago were making a real push in the U.S. market, and them not being at the show, I think says a lot for where that push stands right now. Mm-hmm. That I think they're going to focus back on Europe. I don't think I'm not saying they're leaving the U.S. market, but if you're not at the trade show, then you're not making a push in the U.S. market is the best way I could say that. So that one, that was kind of at the top of my list in terms of, I knew they weren't going to be, I had heard they weren't going to be there because I'd already known who took over their booth. So I heard that. Elohio wasn't there.
Right.
That's the first trade show. I don't remember seeing Elohio. That was a little bit of a surprise. They've always just had one booth. That booth always seemed to be pretty busy. They seemed to get orders. So that was a surprise. Duran Cigars wasn't there. Mm-hmm. Although that's not I don't think that's a total surprise. I think.
Although Roberto was there.
Roberto was walking around the show.
Yeah.
Because he does sell a lot of wrapper and everything, so he's an associate. But I mean, from what I'm seeing, it looks like they're going direct to consumer. But I think the biggest surprise, you guys are going to laugh at me, is Ezra Zion wasn't there. And, they were saying, I was still surprised about that because I know you're laughing, but if they were going to at all wholesale, right, and make any attempt at wholesaling, I would think they would be at the show. And they were talking about, when they did the press release, that they were going to wholesale to retailers. That's clearly not the case. So, that kind of shows me where that wholesaling piece stands right now.
Yeah, plus they said they were going to be opening up a store in Texas and things like that.
Right, as a retailer as well. So I was surprised when a retailer they weren't there either. Yeah,
and I put Duran and Maya Selva kind of in that same boat. They both lost their sales and marketing staff. Gabriel left Maya Selva, so maybe that was kind of the death of the U.S. push for a little while until they figured out what they want to do. Duran, those guys were just peeling off piece by piece until it got down to Miguel, and Miguel finally took off for green.
But I think that was deliberate. I think they were changing their model, and that's why those people weren't replaced.
Okay. Well, yeah, and sometimes it's just that there's leadership there is not gonna
right.
I think they can do it. do it solo or
Yeah.
do it for less.
But I think they're going direct. If you go to I saw a website where they were going direct to consumer. So that's why if you go to DuranCigars.com, I saw something to indicate that.
Yeah. Any other ones from you guys, or we'll go on to the next topic?
Was Al Capone there? I don't remember if Al Capone was there with the new menthol Vitola. I don't know. I don't remember. I don't remember seeing that.
What's their parent brand?
God, I mean, it's not a show without that.
But,
I almost bought some and brought them with me just to make sure that you had some.
yeah.
I'll make sure that you don't go without next year.
There is one big one that we have, actually two big ones we haven't talked about. Victor Vitale hasn't been there for the second year in a row.
Right.
Yeah.
And the other one is, which we haven't mentioned, Las Cumbres.
Yeah, and I think everybody had a feeling that was going to happen when Jose went over to EPC.
I think we did too, but I think again it may show where that stands in the U.S. market as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, my feeling is that when Emma her job was to focus on Europe, and then Jose left, I figured that was it. That was the decision pretty much at that point. It's focus on Europe, and that's it.
Yeah, and then he wasn't at the show, but his company was. Ernesto Perez Carrillo Jr. was not at the show this year. I'd heard his mom was sick.
Okay.
Yeah.
What about Victor Sinclair? Victor Sinclair, they had the little jail cell booth. Was he? I don't know. I didn't see that.
No.
Well, that's going to be an interesting story, is what I'll just say from talking to people. That's a story to really watch right now.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, because what we've heard from other manufacturers is that that's not a one-off case, that there's going to be other people that are probably guilty of similar things. So
now I did run into, we're talking about Victor Sinclair, and that's Jose Dominguez, who was indicted.
Right.
I did see J.R. Dominguez,
yes,
who is Jose's son. He's a partner in Recluse. He was working at Ted Cigars booths this year.
Right.
So that was, and obviously I wasn't going to mention, I was there to talk about Ted Cigars there, so I didn't want to get in the middle of that. I didn't think it was the place to do that, but J.R. Dominguez was there this year.
Yeah. Yeah, he was actually checking in right in front of us when we were checking in, getting our badges, so I knew he was there pretty quick. All right, so we're going to get into a segment that Coop is not going to like. It is just the rumors and gossip at the show.
Oh, geez.
So, this isn't your site, Coop. This isn't your show. This isn't your site. You're free to talk.
Hey, Skip. Right. Hey, Skip's tuned in now, so that's good.
yeah. We're going to hit them all, Skip. Don't worry about it.
I'll play along.
All right.
I'll play along.
So the first one is that no retailers from California were going to show up to the show. So June and I are from California. We know a few retailers around the state. We saw a lot of them that we know. I'm sure it's probably not, the volume that had come to previous shows, but they were there and they were buying. And they said the one that's local to us said they spent more than they were planning to spend at the show. Is that right, June?
Yeah, and I mean, not even that. I mean, we got like the small batch guys that showed up, right?
Yeah.
I mean, that's a major, especially on the internet retailing side, major one that comes out of California. And within our regional areas, within the B&Ms that we go to, we saw representation from all of those guys.
Right.
So
yep, and some other ones from Southern California, that we're friends with and things like that. So I'm not sure that obviously I don't know the exact numbers of how many retailers are on California and how many attended, but from the visibility on our side, we saw a lot of them there, and they were buying. So
I think the other rumor going to the show was that based on deeming regs, is that B&Ms are going to make transitionary purchases away from boutique cigars that they weren't necessarily confident were going to still be on the market, and go back to large brands that they know have predicate blends, et cetera, et cetera. And there was definitely some of that. We heard a lot of big purchases on the first day, but what we heard from a lot of boutique manufacturers is that day two, they saw a lot more traffic than they were actually anticipating, and a lot more not tire kickers but purchases. And what we heard across the floor from boutique manufacturers is that they exceeded their expectations by day two, what they had internally planned for the show. And some boutique manufacturers are saying they had made their show by day two, which they said was probably the most successful show they've had in 2 or 3 years. So that kind of turns that whole shops are moving away from boutique brands on its ear, because that is not following what they're actually purchasing at the show.
Yeah, I think June and I heard that a lot. That a lot of people were saying, we hit everything on the first day, and everything after that is just gravy kind of thing. Now, whether who knows? We don't get to see the sales numbers and things like that. But we heard a lot of that. So
No,
I'm assuming you
nobody,
guys heard similar.
nobody wants to say that they had a terrible show. Nobody.
Right. It's like
Todd
no
Wright
one
from
says they have a
Fulton.
bad event. Yeah.
Todd Wright from Falto was very open. He said it was the worst show I think they've ever been to. So
He was very, yeah, he was. In general, the attendance numbers I always think are a little bit overrated because the sales numbers are never disclosed. In most cases, they're not disclosed.
Right.
However, I think you still got to be concerned. There was a noticeable less foot traffic this year, so I still think in the end I had to have some. Maybe the projections. If there's quotas set at the show, maybe they will lower this year. Is kind of where I'm getting at.
yeah, I would agree with that. I definitely think it was attendance was far lower than previous years. But I think it's just been kind of steadily decreasing every year because we keep hearing the same thing every year that attendance was low kind of thing. But depends on it, like you said, who's buying versus who's not buying. So.
Yeah.
The Westgate, we already kind of touched on it a little bit, but apparently Coop's the only one that ever set foot in that building.
We set foot in it just to just to get a stock of it, yeah. Because I wanted to see what it really it was the comparison between that and the Stratosphere, and this comes. Go ahead.
It's better than Stratosphere.
It is, but when Logan, who's got to be one of the cheapest guys for media attending the event, says, and I quote, "Walking 2 feet into the Westgate, while this place is a shithole," that speaks volumes to the quality of the hotel. And I know there's, I know for a fact there's strategic partnership that you have to book out a certain amount of the hotel because that's part and parcel with going with the convention center. But you have to wonder. What kind of message is that sending to manufacturers who are spending tens and hundreds of thousands of dollars to show up at the event, and they can put up at the Westgate? And I would solidly, from the anecdotal feedback that I got from manufacturers, that was a Cuba 2-star hotel. And I'm not exaggerating. That was a Cuba 2-star hotel. Any hotel in the Strip that doesn't have working air conditioning or has plumbing issues should not be on the Strip of Las Vegas. Like, I'm not kidding. Like, I've been to many hotels in Cuba that do not have those issues. So if you're showcasing this as a hotel where you're putting up big manufacturers who are spending big money, that's a bit of a black eye for the IPCPR.
Were you guys at the breakfast? Were you guys at the breakfast though at the Westgate?
No, I
breakfast?
had other commitments, unfortunately.
Oh yeah,
Okay.
so then we were at the Westgate if we went to the breakfast. So.
If you went to
yeah.
Yeah, so it was at the Westgate. I thought the conference area in the back was actually pretty nice. That's why, and I actually thought they were a little more friendly than the previous locations, the Sands.
Right.
So I thought that was a little better. But I agree with John. I do agree with John. But however, they secured very cheap rates there for a reason. And if you wanted something a little better, you had an option of going to the Encore. So that's something, and the Encore is really not, but it was a cab ride too.
Yeah, I mean, I think it was really the only reason to stay at the Westgate was that you could just walk over. But other than that, I don't think there was any really great redeeming qualities to the hotel. Now, I everybody kind of talks about like where was the place to congregate after the show, because when it was at the Sands, everybody was at the Circle Bar, the Laguna Bar, to be able to hang out. So I think obviously it was visible that not everybody was kind of in the same place because some people were trying to go to that place at the Westgate. I don't remember what it was called, but said that the seating wasn't very good. There wasn't a lot of seating. Most everybody was standing up the entire time, things like that. So I think a lot of times everybody kind of still ended up over the Laguna Bar at the Palazzo. So even though you may not be staying there, that's just kind of where people ended up, just because it was familiar and everybody wanted to see what was going on over there, and you ended up getting over there and you saw a bunch of people that you knew. So
yeah, I agree. A lot of people were also, for the breakfast. The manufacturers who were staying. There were a lot of manufacturers who didn't move their hotel, so I think that had a lot to do with why that ended up turning out. I'm curious to see what will happen next year if that will be the case.
Right. I don't know. I mean, I think obviously the Westgate's I'm sure going to be a host hotel next year, and if with the feedback that is coming out of there, I don't see that. I mean, for June and I stayed at Treasure Island, so it's not close. We had to take a lift every day to and from. I mean, it's only like 10 minutes, 12 minutes. Really cheap to do it. I think I still prefer to stay. I wouldn't stay at the Westgate. I mean, I'll stay somewhere else. But I don't think I have a problem staying, away from the convention center itself.
Yeah, I don't think it's that big of a deal being in Vegas. I mean, like I can't speak to manufacturers, but I mean, I feel like as media people, we're hauling a crap ton of stuff to the show. So I feel like we've got a substantial amount of stuff, and we were staying at the Cosmo, which is pretty south, and it was a 14-minute lift, and it wasn't really that big of a deal overall. Like it really didn't impact our schedule getting to events and getting to the trade show and getting back to the hotel. I'd say if I was a manufacturer and I'd gone to the Westgate this year, I think you're probably going to see a lot of those people shifting to other hotels.
Yep.
Speaking of rumors, so I think if you're not going to the Laguna Bar to hang out, I think you're missing out big time, because you will hear so much freaking news that you will not just hear on the trade floor.
Yeah, that's where you get all the. Yeah, you want dirt, you'll get it there.
Exactly, and it's not only that, man. Like, it's like getting to know people, away from the booth and their PC way of styles of talking and whatnot. You really get to know people for who they are, man. Like, I think your media, retailer, brand owners alike, it's well worth your time to go to a Laguna Bar and hang out.
Even you guys talked me into one more night there.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I'm sure you're glad you came.
We only went at a free.
And then you guys, I ended up staying later than you guys after you talked me into
exactly. But Eric has a different hangout spot. Where do you hang out, Eric?
Oh man, we out of the 5 nights we were there, 4 of those nights, other than the Drew Estate night, we shut down Atomic Liquors in Old Town, and that place is great. Air conditioning, great music. Coop, you'd love the music. It's all 80s punk rock.
Really? Why
Cool.
did you tell me?
I have. How many times have I said this?
I must have went in one ear and out the other. I'm sorry.
I've said this a million times. It's the greatest place, and that's why we ended up staying at Golden Nugget, because we could just walk there. It's amazing. But you got to remember now, a lot of dojo people come in just for the party, and so they're down there, and so we're hanging out with them, and it's an amazing bar. You can smoke in there, air conditioning. Yeah, it's amazing.
Yeah, it's a nice spot. We went there last year with Eric. He took us to some a nice Mexican spot. Got to have some Mexican corn, stuff like that. But it was a nice spot. We told Eric we were going to see him there like 3 times while we were there, and we never made it. I think this year had a lot more events kind of after the show that kind of
big time.
tie up your time. So it was just unfortunate that we didn't get to hang out more with Eric. I mean, we got to go to the party, which was fantastic as always, Eric.
Thank you.
And great tacos. Always love the tacos there.
Tacos.
We
got a good pep talk from Glenn Loop.
Yes, exactly.
I did too.
And then, but we got to find another location, man. That one's just too smoky.
It is, yeah. I'm thinking about
pack enough people.
I want to do an Atomic. I want to just rent that place.
There you go.
Wait. Let me ask you guys this. So we were throwing this idea out, right, of renting a house next year, right, like Airbnb style.
Yeah.
Because if you rent a nice enough house, it's not that expensive, all things considered. You could throw fat backyard parties.
Like Mombacho did.
Yeah.
Right.
We are considering that. So maybe we'll do that with you guys next year.
Yeah, I'd be interested as well.
Sick, man.
Yep.
Yeah.
I can move my office there next year.
We kind of talked offline about maybe getting a media house next year. I think that'd be pretty slick. So we just got to find one that works for the.
By the way, Seth already sent me some Airbnb links, pretending like he's going to come next year. But I'll believe it when I see it.
There's rumors he may be coming next year.
Yeah,
there's strong rumors.
I'll believe it when I see it.
This is the first time the rumors I think have some legs though.
It's 11 and a half months away. That's,
but I've never heard some of the language I've heard this year about actually coming. No, this is
all right.
I can just imagine, like day 3, Coop stumbling down the stairs with like a beer and cocaine coming out of his nose. Say hello to my little friend. I think that could be something that we could live stream.
Yep.
I mean, I think one of the big benefits of having a media house and having multiple groups at a media house not just to have a party there, but to actually stay there, is that it's gonna attract manufacturers to come there, and it does provide a centralized location. I think there's a lot of value to that. I mean, we're sad we didn't make the dojo party, and I think this is the first year we haven't made the dojo party. But like, not to sound like we're important by any stretch of the imagination, but like we were triple booked every single night. And as the den mother, it was like my responsibility to somehow make an appearance at 3 or 4 events in a night. And it's like, well, we have 5 hours after the show by which we can make all of these events, and trying to strategically plan these out. And it almost feels like a snub when you get an invite to an event. You got to show up. And when there's 3 or 4 events in a night, and there's only 3 or 4 nights that you can possibly make that, it becomes quite a struggle to juggle that. I mean, it's a very, very limited period of time.
I like the media house idea. I think that would be amazing.
Mhm.
Yeah. We just got to work on the location, and we'll
We'd
make that happen.
be banned from Airbnb for the rest of our lives, but it would be worth it for that
Exactly.
1 year.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Just make sure there's no trailers in the property.
Yes. No one else living on the property while we're staying at the house. Would be perfect. All right, so let's talk a little bit logistics of the show. We kind of talked a little bit some things here or there, but what did you think worked well for the show, or didn't work well? And we're just kind of talking about the trade show itself, location, getting in, hours.
I thought it was
that.
great, Aaron, that like some media guys got in there like 3 days early. I think that was great.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, when you get a different color lanyard and you get the associate tag, now whether or not you're an associate or not, I haven't gotten the answer to that yet. I know there's a little bit of research going on that end, but I'd really like to get some answers. I'm always a proponent of getting in early. I think I've bitched about that every year that we haven't got in early. Just seems to be no rhyme or reason to it. I know something that John's. Oh, go ahead, Coop.
Go ahead, Coop.
Go ahead, John. You go first, because I'm gonna.
No. Mine's
you
gonna
go
be
first,
a whiskey
Coop,
fueled. Yeah, you definitely want to go first.
So listen, right now there is some issues around that with people getting in before other people. It's not rumor, it's fact. What I'd prefer to do, and I kind of mentioned, I am talking to people in IPCPR. I want to give them a chance to kind of come back to me before I kind of go vocal or postal or whatever on it. But I want to at least give them a chance to respond back. But I did find it pretty concerning that the media person had no idea that there were other people getting into the show floor early.
Right.
That's a big. I don't know how that happened. So. But I want to give IPCR a fair chance to see if one, why this happened, and two, if it could be rectified.
This happens every year, Coop.
But it was more obvious. It was very obvious this year. I mean, it was very obvious. It happens every year, but this year it was when I only have 3.5 days to cover the show, and I'm talking about bringing another person in, which costs money, as you guys know. I'm not playing a level playing field if other people are still getting in early. So why am I going to bring another person out next year? And I have people yelling at me saying, "Why aren't you coming to my booth?" I get all these emails like, so. But I want to. It's got to be fair. Right. It's a problem.
Yeah. All right, John, you're on.
You ready? All right. So first of all, does anyone and I'm going to talk about America. I'm not going to talk about Canada. I'm going to talk about America. Is there anyone in the United States who works a regular business day of the hours between 10 and 5, and certainly in the cigar industry? Is there anybody in the United States that works a business day that is 10 a.m. till 5 p.m.?
No.
No, that doesn't happen. So you're going to tell me you're going to fly in thousands of people into Vegas for a trade show, the most important trade show arguably of the year, and you're going to have a first day start at 10:30 with a hard close at 5 o'clock, and sometime in that, 6.5 hour, 7.5 hour period, you got to have food. Whether or not you got food tickets or not, that's a whole different discussion point. You got to use the washroom. Hopefully you're only using it once, because otherwise you're eating into your booth time. And then at 5 o'clock you're kicked out sharply, and you're trying to make these media commitments, and you've really only got, like Coop was saying, 3.5 days really, and the half day doesn't necessarily count because it's kind of a throwaway. Why in the hell does the show start at 10 and 10:30 on the first day? Like, I understand the pack thing, and I get it. I get the logistics of that. But it's absurd to me that the trade show would start at 10. It's ridiculous that it would ever start at 10:30. There's no way for media, and I don't even know how retailers conduct business from a 7-hour slash. It's really sick. It's a 6-hour day. If you count breaks and you count bathroom breaks and you count food, it's a 6-hour day. I'm there to work. I'm not, party time is after the show. I'm there to work. I want 7 hours. I'd like 8 hours, but I know a bunch of people are going to complain and bitch that, oh, I got to be at the floor at 9 a.m. It's a work day. If you want to go out and party and you want to have fun, that's great. But it's a work day. I'm there to work. Manage your after hours festivities accordingly. I want to be on the floor at 9 a.m. I know that, there's a lot of people that aren't going to be happy about that. That they're not going to be cool with that. All right, make it don't go. Don't go.
Yeah, don't go, exactly.
From my perspective, the show should be open at 8 o'clock in the morning for packed people. The floor should open at 9 a.m. and should close sharply at 5 every day. None of this 10:30 bullshit. None of this 10:45 bullshit. None of this 5 after 10 bullshit. At 9 o'clock in the morning, I want to be on the floor, ready to go, and the fact that some media people don't get meal tickets, what are you fucking kidding me? Media people aren't getting meal tickets?
The problem with that, John, the problem with that is they don't negotiate the media when they get someone to sponsor this. That's what I've been told, and I don't understand why they just don't do it. Just say, hey, you got to cover the media as well. If you're going to sponsor the lunch, then cover the media, and they don't. That's what the reason I've been told why it doesn't happen. The other thing, logistically, John, you make a great point. So the breakfast this year was at 8 a.m. over at the Westgate, and then 9:30 a.m. was the pack thing, which is utterly ridiculous that we couldn't get in on that. And for folks who don't understand the pack, they basically, if you make $100 contribution to the Political Action Committee, you're entitled to go on the show floor early. And that went for media as well. So if we wanted, we're already paying enough to come cover the show, and they wanted another $100. I'm not against paying for a pack, which is a good thing. But here was the logistical nightmare. There were people at that breakfast, and this year it was Rudy Giuliani, and we could. That's a whole other discussion. But the point is, there were people who had to leave Giuliani's speech who had paid the pack money to go over and had to do business at 9:30. I thought that was not planned out well.
Right.
That's too tight a window.
Yeah, start the speech earlier. Start it at the beginning, shortly after the beginning of the breakfast.
That's what I would do. Start it earlier.
15 minutes to get in, get their food, get their seat, and then introduce them.
Yeah.
If people need to ditch out on the.
I did hear some retailers upset about that. That they wanted to hear the speech and they had to leave because they paid this money, and they get additional discounts showing up between 9:30 and 10:30. Mm-hmm. So it's not just that they're getting to spend money earlier. They're getting that $100 is going to buy them a bigger discount because they're getting in earlier.
Right. Yeah, I'd agree with more time on the floor. I mean, we every time we go, we always miss people because we just don't have the time to hit everybody, and that
every
a couple
trade
extra
show
hours. Yeah, a couple extra hours. Each day, or one hour each day.
An extra hour every day amounts to roughly 20 booths over a week. That's a lot of coverage.
Every trade show I go to outside the cigar industry, they start 8 a.m.
Yeah,
8 a.m. I mean, so I'm not. If you want to party and you don't want to get there 8 a.m., I'm sorry, it affects the manufacturers. You're there to make sales. Right. If you're a retailer and you don't feel like getting up at 8 a.m., show up at 10 like you normally do. But I agree. I don't understand this 10. I've never understood it.
I mean, it's not like someone is not going to come back to you. Like, I get it. Some people go out and they have a wild time, and maybe they're not going to be at their booth at 8 a.m., and, that looks bad on them. But it's not like someone's not going to come back at 9 or 9:30 and check on their booth and do business with them. Like that not being there for that 1 hour or half an hour, 45 minutes, they're still going to be there. They're still going to come back to your booth. They're still going to want to do business because they do business.
Yeah, I mean, if you're there in Vegas to party, get there a couple days early, stay a couple days late, do your thing. But if like you said, if you're there to do business for those 3.5 days, that's what everybody else is looking to do as well. So what else do you think was working well? It wasn't working well. I mean, we talked a little bit about access. Getting in early, not getting in early, but how about things like changing up the schedule a little bit we kind of already talked about that, but I just think it's sad that the pack thing throws the whole kind of a whole roadblock into that. I mean,
It's a
I think I
horrible
want to say the
decision.
first 2 or 3 years that I went, we were able to get in at the pack time, and then
Yeah, that's what I remember.
years it was.
If you are a manufacturer listening to the show, please push back on the IPCPR on this. So if you're wondering why we're not at the booths and we can't get to your booths, please push back and let them know you want media in there earlier.
Yeah.
Because honestly, that's why we're not at your booths. We're not. Believe me, we want to get to every booth, but if that's going to be allowed to go on, or if they're going to hit us up for $100 to pay for it, and I had to make a business decision. I wasn't going to pay the $100. Plus, I had reasons I wanted to cover the breakfast. So I made that decision that I wanted to cover the breakfast. So, but again, if you're a man, please, I mean, it's vitally important, okay? If you're wanting to know why we're not at your, especially if you're small, but just pepper them with emails and phone calls. Media needs access there.
Yep. And I think I touched on it earlier. This was a pretty busy year for after show events, right?
It was
Seemed like
very
a lot
busy this
more
year,
stuff.
more busy than normal.
Busiest year ever for sure.
Yeah.
No question.
I just thought we got invited to all these cool things and we're part of the cool crowd finally.
Yeah, that could be the case. We could have just didn't even know it weren't even on the
Hey,
consciousness.
We gotta. You know what I gotta say? A couple of things. The opening gala by General. I got to go there for a while before Monbaggio. They did an amazing job.
Mm-hmm.
That's how an opening gala should be. I didn't go to the 38 special thing, but I can tell you, I spoke to a lot of people who did, and that was very well done as also. So and I trust the people who've gone in previous years. They said so. I think IPCR did a very, very good job with those events and getting the right sponsors with them. General sponsored the opening gala, and Esteban Carrera sponsored the 38 special thing.
Yeah, I don't think I heard any negative comments about either of those events. I mean, we didn't attend, but I think everybody seemed to enjoy that. I mean, because I know that this year it was back to open bar with some food and stuff like that. I think like a couple years ago, when I first went, that's the way it was. And then a couple years into it, they kind of made it a host bar, and it was like there was food for like 10 minutes, and if you didn't get there in the first 10 minutes, you were out of luck, kind of thing. But
yeah, but not only that, and the food was really good. But that Macanudo launched 2 of their cigars that night. Mm-hmm. They also had a T-shirt station in the back. I think they really made that feel like it didn't feel like a cocktail hour to me. It felt like that's how an opening gala should. They set a blueprint for how it could be for years to come.
I mean, my feedback for the manufacturers would be, I mean, the events were great, and I think because we're juggling so many strategic meetings and after-show events, I'd love to see some of those events start at 6, because if you can start a dinner or whatever at 6 o'clock, we can fit in 4 events in a night. Like it's a tight squeeze, but we can fit in 4 events in a night. When an event starts at 7 or 7:30, that makes it really, really tough, because now we're having to basically look at the night and say, well, we can only fit in 3, and by the time we fit in the 3rd, it's 11 o'clock at night. We can't fit in a 4th. If you start at 6 for a dinner goes till 7:30 or 9 o'clock if you're hanging out with Mel and eating all night. But if you start at 6, you can get a dinner in, you can get an after dinner meeting or cocktail thing in, then you can get an after party in, and you can conceivably fit 3 or 4 events every night and get at least 6 hours of sleep. I know the manufacturers don't want 6 hours of sleep, but some of us do want 6 hours of sleep because we're getting up there in age.
Yeah, and I thought the scheduling for like media events at the during the show, like at a booth, they seemed to go pretty well, because I'm not aware of any that were kind of like overlapping. It seemed like everybody had kind of spaced them out enough so that people could attend each of the events.
Yeah.
I mean, it was like the Davidoff event with the Golden Band Awards, the Ventura event, the Placencia event, like things like that. They were, maybe they talked.
The Ventura, unfortunately, I got tied up at the Davidoff booth, and that was the only one. But they still was enough time. That was more my time management. Right. That wasn't Ventura's fault. That was more me. But for the most part, I agree with you. They did a really good job with that.
Can we, because I know we talked about this offline, but I think of all the booths out there, consistently General Cigar has their media time and their media scrum probably locked down better than anybody else. I think Victoria runs that like a well-oiled machine, gets people through the booth, gets all the interviews done. But I have to say the big surprise this year was Drew Estate. Mm-hmm. you know, I think in the past, and I think everyone can probably speak to this, Drew Estate is always a crapshoot. The booth is insanely busy. JD can't walk 3 feet, literally 3 feet, without having 15 interviews. And this is the first time where I felt like we had a schedule in advance. We went in and the schedule was like literally to the minute on time. We got all the interviews done on time, and we got out of there within our scheduled time. And that made such a difference to our overall planning.
Yep.
Like that kind of thing can make or break the entire week, because if we spend an extra hour, an hour and a half in a booth waiting on people to be available, that tosses the entire, like that can blow out an entire day worth of booth visits.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. I mean, it was spot on. You got there, Joe greeted you, he took you to the first appointment, and he was with, you know, he was kind of staying on time. And, you know, when he got to the time limit for the first one, he kind of, you know, interjected and said, all right, we need to kind of wrap up because we need to get to the next one. Kind of took you right through the flow, kind of similar to how Victoria does it. So it was really good.
I thought that was really well done as well. You know, I got to take your hats off to Joe, Sam, and that whole team. I think they got it right this year, and they did a great job.
Yep. What do you think, Eric?
Yeah, I agree. I was going to ask you guys about the multi-booths, like what you thought was good multi-booths, because you got, you know, General does the multi-booth thing, and Altadis does it, you know, and Drew Estate does it, and I think General was great. Like you guys said, man, you get there. We got there accidentally an hour early, and then, you know, kind of came back. But once you get in there, man, they just boom, 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 take you around. You get everything you need to know. You're done. And Drew Estate did a good job this year, which was good for them. They did a little interview. Boom, 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 boom. I remember we were talking about the very first section there, and we got a little long, and sort of Joe grabbed us and like moved us along to the next thing, you know, which was good because not only good for them, but good for us too, because I had to stay on task, you know, and so they did a good job this year.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like
Sorry. Go ahead.
I was gonna say he was like the Pedro Gomez of Cigar Safari, but for the media. Like he was just, you know, nope, we gotta go. Like this interview is over. Time to move on to the next interview. We're done.
Yeah.
The only thing about the Drew Estate booth, which it wasn't as concerned for media maybe, but it's something I was a little observant. I didn't see JD at the booth much this year, and I was a little surprised because I know they're trying to make a statement that he's back. But I didn't see him there, and maybe it was just me missing him. I would have expected to see him a little more at the booth. That was the only thing I thought that was maybe the one thing that if I was Drew Estate, that would maybe when I looked at. But you don't know what his demands were, if there were personal things. I don't know that. So, but that would be the one thing I'd say. I'd be a little cognizant of if he's trying to establish him more as the face again. I think he needed to be a little more at the booth.
Did you see him last year? Because we saw him for like 25 minutes last year, and then we never saw him.
But now he's back as the president of Drew Estate.
Right.
That's the difference. So that's like I said, it doesn't really affect the media. I got what I needed to do. I do know JD. Certainly, I could text him or whatever. But I think from a retail standpoint, that was the one thing I guess I just saw. Maybe if that would have been, if you're trying to like position him as the face, you know, he needs to be a little more visible with that. That would be my only critique. But in general, you didn't. In general, like I said, you had no problem if you were a media or retailer getting attention and help at that booth and getting the information you needed. So I mean, that part was really good.
Yeah, and I would say Altadis did a pretty good job as well. When we got there, we had a scheduled appointment. Yasmin was talking to AJ, so we kind of gave them a little bit of time there. But then once that wrapped up, she took us through all the products and really concise on all the explanations. Then we went over to Aging Room Boutique Blends, and then we talked to Raphael's son, Raphael, and he did the same thing. So I thought that was a good. They're now with them, so I think that was a good. They seem to blend in very well with
Yasmin has that nailed down as well, but I heard she's moving into a different role next year.
Oh, okay.
She's moving on to manufacturing, which I really wish, because she's a terrific person, and I kind of told her I hope you're the first female Grupo de Maestros.
Right.
Is what I told her, because she's really she's always. In fact, last year I forgot to make an appointment with her, and she got me in. So she's always been terrific with that and made the time.
Yep. Yeah, and I don't think there was any other big booths that really had multi-brands in it
Davidoff.
other
Yeah,
than those
Davidoff.
guys, right?
Yeah, Davidoff.
Oh yeah, that's true. That's true.
Yeah.
Yeah, the media event was fairly dry, I thought, this year. I roped Eric into going, and I'm sure he hates me for it. But
I liked it because I've gone to the Golden Band Awards. I think
Right.
they needed to take a year off from it. Because what I liked is we didn't have the 35-minute speeches from the winners, which I just thought was a little too heavy. I do like the fact they recognize the retailers, but I just thought these 35-minute speeches at night, at 10 o'clock at night, were just too much.
Yeah.
So
Where's the SD Dupont though? I was, can I get a little SD Dupont love? No.
I tried. I actually interviewed Elaine, who is he's a fantastic guy. I did try to get that $140,000 humidor. I said, "Can I have a sample?" It didn't work. I asked for a sample, by the way, but not when I. But
I heard talking about rumors. I heard they sold a bunch of those on that day.
They sold. Yeah, he told me the first day they sold at least one, but they have more allocated. Yeah.
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 Can they? All right, I'm going to be negative about this. Can people in the non-Cuban cigar industry stop copying what the Cuban industry are doing for cigars? Like, that humidor is nothing but a ripoff of the Cohiba 50th anniversary. All right, and that collection, the Bradley collection for Tad and other companies that's doing this whole it's all a ripoff of Cohiba Selection Reserva from back in the day. John, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, but you didn't have to sit through a 6.5-hour dinner and watch a bunch of Shake Big Shots bid 350,000 euros on it. So it's a mixed bag. You got to forget that if you've been through that dinner in the festival, you know that that's a whole evening of time you'll never get back.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thanks for the Canadian perspective.
No, but I hear you, man. There's a lot of stuff. You look at the jar stuff, right? It's surprising to me that there's only a few manufacturers, and some love out to Atabey and Byron. They're bringing next level packaging, and you don't really see that from manufacturers. Guys, you have the entire world of manufacturers to produce really high content, super crazy high end stuff, and there's a huge market for that. Davidoff proved it by putting out the fact that, they were telling us the price, and it's 5 of them are sold already. And it's what?
But there's a market for that.
There's a market for that, and I think it's a huge untapped market. Huge untapped market.
For that matter, why don't Pete Johnson release all his old monsters, put it in some nice, fancy porcelain jars? It'll sell like crazy. I guarantee it.
He could charge $200,000 for that, and it would be gone on the first day.
Yep, he would. Absolutely.
Guaranteed.
All right, so I'm just going to open it up. Any other topics that you guys want to talk about in regards to the show? Things you'd change if you were on the IPCPR board as a media member, or just anything else that was interesting to you at the show?
Abe DeBabna, who I do news content on Kiss My Ash Radio, had a really good idea, and he was talking about it when I was on the air, and he was talking about getting everyone together instead of maybe spending money on a concert. Getting everyone together and doing a roast. And you do a dinner, and you actually have a roast, and you bring in, you roast one person in the cigar industry, and you bring in a bunch of cigar manufacturers. I think that would just knock it out of the park. To me, that's something that's to me, that's a brilliant idea. And if I was on the board, I would take that idea and run with it for next year, and you could probably save some money. It's as opposed to getting everyone down for a concert, you get everyone back into where we had the breakfast at the Westgate, and you do that. I think that would just be awesome.
Yeah, the question I would have is, how serious do some of the bigger guys take themselves versus some of the smaller guys that we know have a sense of humor?
I think it would be with the bigger guys, though. I don't think this would. I think this would be with, I think you'd have some of the, the Nick Perdomos in there. The Christians. I think it would be that type of personality you'd be looking at.
But how offended would they get if people really go at them? Is this going to be a low level roast, or are we talking
Well, with any roast, you're obviously picking people that are personal friends, and hopefully they know how to handle a roast. But I agree. I think that Monday night seems like a wasted opportunity to have a big dinner and have everybody's there. Most of the people have been there since Sunday, so to have a big dinner on Monday night, which is pretty wide availability, have an earlier dinner, have people get together and have an intimate or non-intimate moment. I think that's a really good idea, frankly.
Yeah.
Yeah. What about you, Eric? Any thoughts? Any other thoughts?
What did you guys think about the change in the date? I actually like it because for me, we like the end of July. You're done with the show. Summer's almost over. I like the earlier. Personally, I like the earlier date. Boom, get in there. It worked out perfect for us. Now I got the summer to spend with the family a little bit. So I like that. What do you guys think about the moving up the date, the timeline?
I liked it. I mean, I thought weekdays in Vegas, me being older now, I don't like crowds as much as I used to.
Yeah.
So I love the fact that we didn't have to deal with that bullshit of weekend Vegas goers, you know?
Yeah, me too.
Yeah.
So,
I have a different perspective because now that I'm wearing the retailer hat, two things. One, during the week, excellent. That early in July completely screws over, at least in Alberta. We have an event. It's the biggest outdoor festival on Earth, and it's called the Calgary Stampede. And they have like 1.25 million people through the Stampede every day. And the CEO of our company couldn't attend the IPCPR, which is the first show he's missed in like 8 years, because he had commitments. So that early in July really bones our scheduling. So essentially, I was the representative from our company, and a bunch of people couldn't attend because they had other commitments. And obviously there's some late minute timing to that, but if it's during the Stampede time for us, like that early in July, it's an absolute no fly. During the week, I think is an excellent way to do it. I think, if you do Monday to Friday, I think it should be done every single time. That's ideal.
Yeah, I'd actually like him to move it up 6 months, but I don't think that's going to ever happen. I mean, to me, it seems like the summer is the worst time for a retailer to have to go to the show because it's probably there when they're selling, especially for the people like in the Northeast or just cold climates. Like, this is prime time selling season. Like, that's where you're making money. Like, go in the wintertime when nobody's coming into your shop and do it all then. That would just make more sense to me. But I don't know.
But you got to drive the costs up. There's going to be a significant.
Well, yeah, I'm sure costs are higher because more people want to go to Vegas at that time. But then you also get better weather and stuff like that, so you can have all your events outdoors and whatever you want to do, and it's not going to be that big of a deal. But
yeah,
I know. I think next year the dates are set. It's was it Saturday through Wednesday next year?
So, I don't even know what's the calendar dates.
Yeah, I think it's 14th to the 18th, something like that.
yeah.
I think it's back to that middle of the month.
Yeah, so it's going to be, the retailers are going to complain because the weekend is probably their busiest time, so they have that to deal with that. It's not bad for the people that have day jobs because you have to take less time off of work. You get a little bit of weekend time in there. But, we'll see how it goes next year, I guess.
So there's people are talking about Vegas versus New Orleans versus Orlando. What do you guys think? I'm a Vegas guy. I want to be in Vegas every year. For me, perfect.
Vegas is good. I would love to see Miami once, or if there was some way to figure out how to do it in San Diego, I'd be completely up for that. Just because the weather is perfect, and it's not very far away from Vegas, so people shouldn't complain that much about the added travel time.
Here's what I heard. This is what I heard from an IPCPR person. They've done a study of venues that are big enough to hold us and big enough and that will allow smoking, and that's why it's down to those 3 cities.
Right.
So I do think Vegas is probably logistically the best place for me because I do need to take a car out there. I know it sounds crazy, but I have a lot of stuff I take. I would prefer it in Orlando because it's obvious I can get there in a day and back. But I don't think Orlando logistically was the best place to have the show. So.
What is, because I don't know, I'm not an American retailer, but what's the pushback of having the show in Vegas? I don't get it. There's a direct flight from literally every city in the United States. There's a direct flight from Canada. That should be an indicator that that's a pretty good city to have an event in. If I can get a direct from Calgary to Vegas, it's cheap. I know it's cheap from pretty much every city in the United States. So I know people are like, well, it's not central, it's not in my area. I mean, other than people that are in the Northeast or the Northwest, what's the big deal? It's a $320 flight. It's 2.5 hours. Like what's I don't get what the downside to having it in Vegas is. What's the complaint that retailers are having from having it in Vegas? I don't understand that.
I'll tell you, Vegas has the highest cost for me. To have it there. Yeah. I mean, it's the most expensive. I've looked at the cost. I've done all 3 cities, and I can tell you Vegas is by far. And take the plane or driving. Driving, I'll take out because I drive, and that is more expensive than flying. But in general, it's an expensive place to eat, and hotels are still. They're not the cheapest. They're not, but I still find Vegas to be the most expensive.
Well,
But you can smoke anywhere in
Cap.
Vegas, right? You can smoke pretty much anywhere in Vegas. I know maybe a little less than before, right, Coop? But
you can still smoke. Yeah, you
anywhere,
could.
which is nice. I think the big pushback, John, is that there's so many retailers in Florida, and they're there, and so you'd probably get a lot more retailers if it was in Florida. But for me personally, Vegas is perfect.
Yeah, but you could say, like, to Aaron's point, you could say the same thing if you had held it in San Diego. All the California people would show up. Well, sure. If you held it in San Antonio or Austin or Houston, all the Texas people, you're never going to please everybody. But, like, and I guess maybe this is directed to Coop, overall, is there a cheaper city for flights and accommodations and food than Vegas?
Orlando.
Really?
Orlando is in the worst downturn of tourism
that time of the year.
Right in their history. I think it's so barren there. Like, you could rent, like, we could get a crazy media house there for like $100 a night.
Yeah, when it was in Orlando, I rented a house with my family, and this was a palace almost. I rented, and it was like dirt cheap, and it was like 20 minutes away. But in general, you'll have more. The cabs are not cheap in Vegas. Lifts and cabs, they add up. So I think the other down point is 110-degree weather, too. I mean, I think that's one thing. I mean, but 92 degrees in New Orleans ain't exactly a picnic either. No, and 92 degrees in Orlando. So I think that's a little overrated, the 110-degree piece.
I mean, is it that inexpensive to get around Orlando? Because Orlando's pretty spread out.
You got to have a car in Orlando.
Yeah, you'd have to have a car. I mean, you got to factor in transportation.
It's cheaper having a car, though, than probably.
Well, but like, I'm just trying to think like overall cost. So let's say Orlando's cheaper on hotels, maybe a little bit cheaper on food, but you have to factor now in rentals or taxis or whatever, and people are really spread out. So like, is that really incorporating the extra cost for transportation to and from the venue and the extra time that it's going to take you to get to and from your hotel and your venue? Because I feel like that's an intangible that needs to be taken into account.
To me, it just seems like every year Vegas is I spend the most money in Vegas compared to New Orleans. I definitely spent a lot more money.
Yeah.
I just kind of look at the end when I look at what the expense was every year, and pretty much the last 3 years I've been flat with in terms of the activities I've expensed. New Orleans was definitely, even though it was higher price with a hotel, I just found it was still cheaper. But to John's point, I do get it. Yeah, you're not going to have a dirt cheap option in any way you go.
Well, so I guess going back to really what Master Sensei's question was, and maybe we should just do a roundtable. Where would you think personally because the question went out there from the IPCPR, where do you think it should be held? Maybe not next year because it's already locked in, but the year after that, where do you feel it should be held? Let's start with you, Coop.
I'd like to go back to Orlando. I would. That's just, but again, that's a selfish reason for me, because it would be I can drive there in a day.
Well, I think really the question is like, as an overall, like if you were the big shot, if you're making the call for the IPCPR, you're trying to maximize numbers, you're trying to maximize retail attendance. Where do you think it should be held? I
think the problem is, I think you do got to go back to Vegas because logistically, in that case, yes, I do think you have to go back to Vegas.
Yeah, I'd love to see it in Miami just because there's so many manufacturers down there. I just think that it would be crazy. Like, they got, a lot of them have warehouses, things like that. They'd have their own little events, things going on like that. They know the restaurants really well there, things like that. I just think that it'd be like kind of a going behind the curtain a little bit if you got to Miami for a year to do that. So
the only thing I've heard though, Aaron, and I agree with you, but like the Espinosa guys have talked about it. Like if it's at a certain time of year in Miami, it's so hot, that in like Vegas is hot. It's 100. I got a story about the heat, but it's hot, but at least it's dry.
Right.
You know? And so like in Miami and New Orleans, I mean, it's hot and muggy. You can't even be out. You can't be outside. At night in Vegas, you could be outside. It's not so bad.
Right.
So maybe, you know, I don't know, that factors into me because New Orleans was miserable.
Yeah.
I just worry about and I think Miami would be a cool place to have it. I just think that, first of all, the cost of Miami is insane. Like hotel rooms and stuff and transportation in Miami is just like absurd. And I worry that you have it in Miami, you're essentially cutting off most of the West Coast. Like you talk about low attendance for California, which really wasn't the case. But I really don't see most of the West Coast attending if it's going to be in Miami, because they're looking at what is that, 4.5 hour, 4 hour flight, plus hotel rooms, plus transportation, plus getting all this shit out. Is it 6?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's like that. I mean, they're just going to drop off entirely. You're going to see the lowest attend. Like, yeah, all the people on the East Coast will attend, and all the South people will attend, and probably most of the North, because you know they're cigar fanatics and they don't care. But I mean, that would have to be the lowest attended IPCPR.
I wonder though, because like, you know, on the East Coast, especially in Florida, you know, it's like there's a cigar shop like there is Starbucks in Seattle. I mean, it's on every street corner. I mean, it's so much more than any other place. But I don't want it to go there. I'm just saying maybe there'd be a lot of, you know, attendance just based on the fact there's so much cigar stuff going on down there.
Yeah. What about you, John? What's your dream spot?
I mean, I don't know, man. Like, I mean, it's been everywhere, right? It's been in Chicago. I think Chicago's a great town, but again, you run into the same logistical issues that Chicago's expensive. It's super spread out. You know, you've got the same problem as you do east to west coast. Now you're talking north to south. You've got this real issue of people south to north travel. I mean, we kind of threw out the idea of on the show a couple weeks ago when we were just spitballing ideas, and I mean, we don't understand the complexities behind the scenes, but we said, you know, why don't you have 2 shows? Why don't you have a show dedicated to East Coast, West Coast, or a show dedicated to North and South? Because, I mean, I don't know how that breaks out, but somebody's got those numbers. Somebody's got that map. Somebody's got the numbers. Somebody who's way smarter at the numbers has that data and must be able to look at it and say, well, you know, really what we need to do is have a March San Diego show, and then what we need to have is a November Houston show or Miami show, and have 2 smaller shows, but overall for the year, those attendance numbers are going to be 150 or 175% of what they are right now, trying to please everybody, because you can't please everybody.
Yeah, but
go ahead.
Yeah, but John, you do that, and it sounds great on paper, but logistically, you're gonna increase the costs on the manufacturer end,
right,
to support those shows,
right,
and it's gonna be lower profit margins at each of the shows.
Yeah, and again, those are the parts of the pie that I don't understand. So I can't factor that in, but it just seems like, you know, whatever you decide, there's no best answer, and I feel like Vegas, being quote unquote central, I just look at it from the perspective of it's easy to fly into from everywhere. It's easy to fly out to. It's reasonably central. I mean, I guess, do the guys in the Northeast really drop off when it's in Vegas? Like, do you see that complaints from the people who have stores along the East and North Coast?
I don't know. I would think they would want to go to Vegas.
Yeah.
Well, I hear they don't.
Yeah.
They don't want to leave them. They don't want to leave their stores. It's a long, it's a longer flight, so there's extra days. I don't know. It's one of those. I don't think you're gonna please everybody with it. So you got to look at what's gonna be the most profitable.
So here's an idea. So how about we go to some great weather place in a convention center, and afterwards you reserve a room out of the convention center that's cheap somewhere, preferably, and then you just get a bunch of like food trucks to show up and a bunch of bars and set up a bar and then do like after parties then. No?
So basically like a mini hall, as it were. Like a mini convention hall, is that what you're saying?
Yeah, right? Like, doesn't that sound like it's cost effective and it's a lot of fun. People don't have to worry about smoking their cigars and being, in a public space where you have to be conscious about that kind of stuff.
I've heard another. That's interesting. I've heard another story that's kind of made me think. I've heard some manufacturers are talking about doing TPE next year, and that could be a growing event. And Now TPE, I think I have a few issues with TPE, because I don't think that's an IPCPR event per se. So it's kind of, but I think that's something that if TPE starts to grow, you're going to have everyone go to Vegas twice. Yeah.
Then they may end up keeping the July trade show on the East Coast, and TPE is in January, right?
TPE is in January. It's January, February.
Yeah.
I've heard there's lower costs to do TPE. The issue with TPE is it's a tobacco show. It's not just a cigar show.
There's a lot of vape and stuff like that there.
And it's run by Critic International. So you have a manufacturer, you have a distributor running that, which is different than our trade association show.
Yeah.
So
we were talking to Steve Saka, and he was talking to some brokers, and what he mentioned was doing like 5 regional shows where it's just like a 3-day weekend, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, kind of come in on Friday and do like a cocktail thing, and then kind of just having like single table booths, not like these extravagant things at the trade show, but having just like a single table where you're selling kind of Saturday and Sunday type of thing. So I thought that was interesting.
I thought it would be interesting, but I think it would suck. I think there's something about that when those 3.5 days on the show with the booze, it's like the city that's created.
Right.
Or it's the theme park. And as you watch that thing get taken down the last day, as we've watched the last couple of years, there's something very sad about it. Yeah. Like, it's kind of like, wow, they're breaking the whole thing down. This beautiful place.
Yeah, don't get me wrong. I love those few days. Like, it's just like you get immersed. Like I can, and it's, as long as I don't have stuff at my regular job kind of pinging me, you just kind of get lost in Vegas for those few days.
Yeah.
And just get at it for it.
Let me ask this for the big shots who've been to Dortmund: is the Dortmund show declining in attendance, or increasing in attendance, or maintaining the same level?
I haven't been to Dortmund, but that's a different show, and that's a show more for the distributors as opposed to the manufacturers. And manufacturers are going there to connect with distributors, so the manufacturers are the ones who tend to float around from booth to booth right now.
Yeah, I would think it would be only increasing with more U.S. brands kind of heading over there to look for distribution and set that up.
Yeah, I think it's something that could grow, certainly. But I don't think you have the same elaborate booth setups there because again, there's costs to do that, to send that all to Germany.
Yeah. All right. Any other topics you guys wanted to hit?
I want to talk about the color-coordinated shirts of the developing palates. I mean, that was – I could tell what day it was just by the shirt color.
Exactly.
And a lot of times, you have a rough night, you're drinking a lot or whatever, and I didn't know what day it was. So, boom, green shirts, I knew what day it was. It was Tuesday. Yep. It was amazing.
Exactly.
Well, you have to understand that all we want to do within that message was get guys to taste the rainbow.
Oh, God.
Exactly.
There you go.
Yep. DP.
It worked.
DP, taste the rainbow.
I got a question for you guys.
Go ahead.
One winner and one loser from the show.
Ooh.
Oh, man.
Winner was Caldwell. I mean, their booth was rocking every time I went in there. They were jamming. Loser, probably La Polina. Ginormous booth, and it was a ghost town. So those are my winners and losers.
Yeah,
I say winner AJ.
Go ahead.
Oh, I say winner AJ Fernandez.
That was a good booth.
Yeah, I don't recall a single day we went to the show where his booth wasn't popping.
Yeah, that's good.
And the loser, Cigar Fit. Oh, never mind. Just kidding.
Yeah, our booth was empty this year. It was weird.
Yeah. I'm not sure of a winner, and I don't want to call him a loser because he's a super nice guy. But I think Enrique from 1502, I think he probably had a rough show.
That whole area, I think the whole booth was a rough show.
Except the whole north, sort of northeast section of the floor seemed to be pretty dead.
I think that was a rough area. So I hope he did well. Based on the times we walked by, it just seemed like a ghost town over there, and that's for everybody that was in that section. So I hope it's the other way around though. But
what about you, Coop?
I'm gonna say JRE, big winner. One of the worst booth locations at the show. They lucked out from, I think, having Caldwell nearby, but I think regardless, I think they still would have did well. I think it's hard to argue as far as that goes. I think that was they were a big winner, per se with that. Loser, I'm gonna put, the companies like the Faltos, the Christophs, maybe who didn't have the new product, that I think they really got hurt this year. And I don't know, they have to rethink that strategy going forward. So I would probably go JRE winner, and then anyone who didn't have new product this year was a big loser.
A lot of people were talking, Coop, about the whole layout of the show and how they wish that it'd be like, they had spread out the big guys amongst the show. They were mad that all the guys who had been there for a long time and spent a lot of money had good locations. And their argument was this. Here's the argument. It should be more like a mall where the big guys are spread out so that everybody has to go to those places. But here's kind
of an anchor in each area.
Right.
Yeah.
And here's why that doesn't work. It doesn't work because at a mall, you have anchors with entrances in those places. Like you go to a mall and there's, JCPenney or whatever, the big guys right there in these anchors, but that's entrances. There's only one entrance into the show. So you can't force a guy who's spending the most amount of money and has been there the longest amount of time to be over in a corner, because those guys deserve, unfortunately, that's the way it is. They deserve those good spots because they're spending a lot of money. They've been supporting the show forever, and that's just the way it works. If there was an entrance, like a way to get in every corner, okay, then maybe you could do the anchor strategy. You can't do the anchor strategy in this show because you can only get in one spot.
Yeah, I'd agree with that.
That's my rant.
That's fair.
Yeah, that's a good one.
That's very fair. Did you guys see a breakout product this year at the show?
June, this is your cue. Go.
All right. Last year, I named the company.
Jordan
did so well. So, did you guys go to a booth called Jeremy Jack?
I saw that booth.
No.
I saw them, but I didn't get there. I did see them, and it was kind of a larger size booth compared to what
they won a booth of the show award.
So check it. These guys, 100% Aganorsa, 100% stuff made out of Tabsa. So you're talking quality tobacco, right? I mean, I don't care how well you roll a cigar or a bunch of cigar, but it's got to be good quality tobacco. And I actually smoked the Connecticut Shade at the show floor, and it was really tasty. So I'm going to go out on a limb and say these guys are going to come out. They're going to be like amazing and just absolutely blowing away your palates. And you guys are just going to be like wanting more and more of it and just sucking on more of those cigars.
Wow.
So
I got to try it. I didn't even see it. I've never heard of it till right now.
Yeah, June's pick last year wasn't so good, so hopefully he does better this year.
Yeah, I fucked that up last year.
What was last year?
Sacrifolium was last year.
I thought they were, I didn't think that was a bad pick last year. And I was just, I was a little surprised as well.
Yeah, the cigars are okay, but it's not like, he was pumped up. It was Racist Cubanas. It was, Dion's recommendation. It was this whole thing. So,
No, but this is different. This is Tabsa. We're talking Tabsa. All right, we're talking Tabsa.
Right.
I mean,
so the whole reasoning.
Is it possible to blend a mediocre cigar with Aganorsa? Is that even possible?
We're going to find out.
Yes.
Chad, Chad, I don't know what you're talking about at this point.
I'm just saying, I challenge anybody to make a mediocre cigar with that tobacco. Go. Like I really want someone to come out with a mediocre cigar. Like, I don't think it's possible.
Yeah. So Max Fernandez, when we're visiting Casa Fernandez, he's the one that told us about Jeremy Jack, and that's our that was our kind of our cue to go over there and say what's up. So cool, guys. I want to say the guy's name is Brady.
Brady,
Not Jeremy.
Sorry. Not Jeremy.
This is Dad's name.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So I think he's a retailer in Wyoming. So.
Well, Casa Fernandez had a very good show this year, by the way. Yeah. I think they had
San Diego. No, Aaron?
No.
Oh. Just kidding.
Did you guys notice
Telling you, man.
HVC, which I didn't get to their booth? They seem dead this year.
When we talked to him, it wasn't super busy, but we hit him right after lunch, so I couldn't really tell you if that was because it was lunchtime.
And I just didn't get that. I wanted, but they don't. I don't think they promote their brands really well, and I think that hurts them.
Yeah, he doesn't do a very good job promoting, but I mean, he was right across from Mombacho, and Mombacho got a bunch of traffic, so he had an opportunity.
You know who changed my perception in just a couple of years, a year and a half, is Placentia. Like they.
Oh, that was my breakout. That was my pick.
To me, hey, I knew they made a ton of cigars for a million different guys, and I knew they grow great tobacco. I knew all of that, but at the same time, you think of them as just a company that makes cigars for other companies. Some companies are small and not even that good. But now, I have this different perception of them just based on their own brands, and I'm interested. I want to know more. I want more of it, and to me, that was exciting.
Yeah, I would say Southern Draw. I mean, for one thing, he had a booth this year. I mean, last year he chose not to go.
At the last minute.
Yeah, in previous years, he just kind of did his business in the aisles kind of thing. So he was kind of
Jacob's Ladder is a good cigar.
It really is.
So,
dude, he warned me not to smoke that for breakfast, and I was like all over that.
It's a beat.
And he said that those are not going to be the best. Those are not going to be the best ones. So he said the ones that get sent out and when he does his actual full release of it are going to be the top notch ones. So
I think even Logan's gonna like it. That's right.
Oh wow.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
Can we take a moment? Wait. Oh, sorry.
Go ahead.
Speaking of Logan,
go ahead.
Can we take a moment and talk about the Cigar Federation party?
Yes.
Sean, would you like to kick us off?
I mean, we can. I feel like I've already had some comments and feedback that there's some people that were unhappy about it being excluded from the event. And what I said to them was, like anything else that Cigar Federation does, nothing is organized, nothing is prepared in advance. So it all kind of came together at the last minute. But really, like you guys talking about the media event, that's really what we were trying to do, right? We were just trying to get some friends together for impromptu, circle of trust. Everyone just kind of shows up. Everyone drops their manufacturer face or their media face and just have a good time and relax. And I think Skip does that. Some props out to Skip Martin. I think Skip does that really well every year. He's got this central location. By the way, Skip's DJ this year, I don't think we gave any love out to that. That was off the hook. That guy was
that,
like,
by the way?
He didn't have any Bee Gees. I was very upset about that.
No Bee Gees, no mumble rap. That was, he said that right going in. No Bee Gees, no mumble rap.
Skip.
But this was actually the first year, I think, going into Skip's that the place was like shoulder to shoulder, where I think in the past it's been maybe a little bit more, I don't want to say intimate, but I felt like you could kind of count maybe 20 or 30 people. And this year, like by 10 o'clock, it was standing room only. Like the back patio was packed. It was absolutely packed. And there were people that were being stopped at the door because they couldn't allow people in for whatever reason.
Yeah.
But we were kind of trying to go for that, talking about stealing from the Cuban Thunder. We were kind of trying to go for that style where it was just an intimate gathering of a small number of people just to relax, have a cigar, share some spirits, which, we can do outside of the floor. And I don't know, June, what was your take on that? Did you enjoy it?
Yeah, it was great. You said it. You took the words right out of my mouth, John. It was fun, man. It was cool that some of the Mombacho dudes showed up. Well, all of the Mombacho guys showed up.
Yeah, it was sponsored by Food is sponsored by Mombacho. Cigars were sponsored by Drew Estate. It was a pretty good event, I thought.
Whiskey sponsored by June and John.
Exactly. beer by Trip.
Speaking of which, within just kind of thinking about, old media guys going into the other side and being a part of the manufacturers, right? Like Ben of Cigar Jedi being a part of Ventura and On being a part of Drew Estate now. I thought it was really cool to talk to those guys and, get their spin on.
They all did a great job. They all did a great job. Not because they're media guys. They did a great job.
And you want to leave out Rob?
I was like,
Rob,
why do you hate Rob?
Oh, I'm sorry. Oh, shit. I took
Rob
Rob out of all of those guys way more. Sorry, Rob. You're probably not gonna watch this. You're probably smoking a mabacho or something. But no, it's really cool to have them be on that side and talk to them and hang out with them. It was a really cool spin into their perspective.
I want to throw out a question here because it sounds like we're kind of getting to the end here. Everyone's kind of one or two breakout cigars of the IPCPR. I know we don't really have a lot of time to smoke because we're all working, but break out one or two cigars of the show.
I would say Matt Booth's cigar will be probably the most sought after, interesting cigar of the show.
I'll throw the El Owense Maduro out there.
Yeah. Hey, by the way, Nick's going to be on the show Friday, so we'll get the inside scoop on that Friday night. We're gonna.
Nice.
I think we're gonna give away one of those sick humidors he had.
Oh wow!
Cool.
Nice.
Awesome.
So we'll see.
June.
I gotta give it up. The best cigar that I smoked at the show was the Mabacho Cosecha from 2012.
Yeah,
it was.
Yeah, it was.
I'm so looking forward to smoking that not on a crappy, dry Vegas heat. Man, that was really tasty. Claudio definitely has something really special there.
Mm.
I have Coseca for sure. A few other honorable mentions in there. You mentioned Matt Booth's cigar. I think Moya Ruiz's the El Redondo was really good. I like what they did with that cigar. I thought it was really good. I thought Crux's Epicure was really good. Mm-hmm. I also, so I would definitely put the Crux Epicure. And Esteban Carreras's Mr. Brownstone. Don't overlook that cigar. That was a really, really good cigar, and I've heard other people who smoked it were very, very high on it as well. So those would be, and you know what, Steve Saka disagreement, but I did like the Undercrown Sungrown.
So did I. I liked it a lot.
Yeah,
I liked it a lot.
And the Pappy.
I really enjoyed the Cuba Candela.
Yeah, man.
We all smoked it at that party, man.
I liked it.
Nobody had anything bad to say about it, so that's got to be something to be positive about media people, right?
June describes it the best.
So,
what's your flavor description, June?
I think it's Christmas tree with sugar sprinkled on top.
There you go.
Absolutely.
But there's a market for that cigar. Is
Absolutely.
What I'll say.
Absolutely.
It's not. It's going to be. You can put that acid in the acid cigar smoker, and they're not going to get the grassy candela on that.
You can't get that sweetness is so prevalent that it never goes away.
Overrides that candela.
Yeah. I definitely. The other one, I really liked the Espinosa, the Dread, and the Reggae. I like them both a lot, and I'm smoking right now Cornelius and Anthony. This is my first time I've lit it up. The Ariel, which is very good too.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
I think one of the best cigars I've smoked so far out of all those is that Ritmo that I just smoked. You guys like that? That thing was. I thought that thing was.
I'm looking forward to fruit salad, man.
I thought it was young when I smoked it, but I smoked it before the show. I smoked it prior to IPCPR. I thought it was very young.
It's not. It kind of reminds me of the Davidoff that came out a couple years ago. What was it? Escurio? Kind of remind me of that kind of flavor.
I could see that. I could see.
I think you'll like that one. I think if you're in the right time, it's not like strong. It's not like strong, like like super powerful, like grab your attention. It's just nice the whole way through. You can smoke it to the nub. Very nice.
What about you, John? I don't think you gave yours yet.
I think that Cosecha is going to end up being the breakout cigar of the show. And I mean, obviously, I've been down to Nicaragua 100 times in the last 6 months, so I've had the opportunity to smoke it before the show, and I knew going into the show that was going to be that sort of unusual, unique product within the marketplace, and I'd like to see more of that from other manufacturers. I mean, you want to talk Aganorsa tobacco? Let's see that with an Aganorsa blend. How awesome would that be? So I think that Cosecha is going to be a breakout. I smoked
flavorful dick.
Yeah, absolutely, all day long. The Jacob's Ladder, which I smoked on a fresh palate, to me, it's going to speak to the boutique strong smoker. I think that the Jacob's Ladder is going to be
very good
really,
cigar,
really good performer. Obviously, it speaks to the sort of 3% of the geek market, but I think it's going to be a breakout. And I mean, how can you not give love to the Huayhuense Maduro? I mean, I smoked, I don't know, 5 of them, 6 of them.
Yeah.
They were
I didn't get
outstanding.
one. I didn't get one of those actually.
I know a guy.
Yeah, we had to
Um,
talk.
It's okay.
That was-
You'll get a box.
Well, that was because I got the Nick too late and he was slammed, and that's not Nick's fault. So
And I gotta give love because I didn't have a chance to smoke it because they kept getting taken from me. But the Todos los Dias from Saka, that's the cigar I think that I'm most interested in sitting down with and spending some time with once it's had a chance to acclimate to humidity and really give that cigar its due, because I think that could be, you know, man, my brain is just I still haven't caught up on sleep. I think that's going to be the cigar that's going to be everyone's going to be talking about from Saka this year.
yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
It's I agree.
So there was a booth that I heard from multiple people, and one of you may have been ones that had said something, but there was, I don't know what the brand is, but the guy made somebody stand there while he and somebody else smoked a cigar and held the ashtray. Is this you, John? Were you the one talking about this one?
I don't think we
booth.
I don't think we talked about it because, you know, Canadian Circle of Trust, but we were strongly encouraged to get an interview just for entertainment value, and I had to make a mother den call to say, you know, do we want to do an interview for entertainment's sake, or do we want to do interviews to sort of focus on the industry stuff? And at the end of the day, we had to make a decision to say, you know, we're really here to focus on the industry stuff, and as entertaining as that was,
You interviewed Matt Booth, remember?
What's that?
You interviewed Matt Booth, remember?
Oh, that was, I mean, you got to get Boofy. I mean, we knew going in that was going to be like one of our 2 biggest interviews of the show.
He
That
did a
was perfect
serious interview
bookends.
with me, actually. He did a more serious interview with me, which was interesting this year.
Oh man, that'd be interesting. See, I can't imagine doing a serious interview with Boofy. I'd just be trying to put him off his game the entire time. And I got to give props to Tripp for going punch for punch, as Phil Zanke would say, with Boofy, because Boofy kept throwing stuff at him, and Tripp just kept one-upping him every single moment of the game, which I found highly entertaining. But yes, there was, going back to your question, there was a booth who will go unnamed that had some pretty ridiculous stuff going on that was actually it was quite serious, but absurdly serious, like ridiculous within the industry. And I know that somebody's got video of that, and I don't want to name them on the video because I feel like that's, you know, it's getting weird. But if you go and search that, you can find it's from a fairly large company who has good video but terrible audio, and there's a pretty entertaining video that came out of that, from what I hear, from what I understand.
Yeah,
So
it sounded like a can't miss booth, but somehow I missed it. I don't know.
So
I mean, we had 4 manufacturers approach us and tell us we had to go do an interview. 4 manufacturers.
Right.
hey, Coop and Sensei. So you know how you guys give plaques out for like Cigar of the Year, you know, all that kind of stuff?
Yeah.
I stole that idea from Sensei, by the way. I'm going to totally go on the record.
Yeah, Coop,
No.
Coop gives out like 30 awards.
I gave out 3. I only gave out 3.
Hey, come on.
Coop is like number 50 Cigar of the Year goes to.
I only did 3.
So Aaron and I were talking about this, and we're thinking, well, let's make this really worthwhile, right? Like really appreciate manufacturers for what they do. So we're thinking something like best triple cap, right? Or like best mouthfeel of the year, right? So like I would personally give Casey of Crux best mouthfeel cigar of the year, and I would give him like a fucking big plaque, like this freaking big, you know?
This got weird all of a sudden.
Yeah,
It did get weird.
TMI, baby. TMI.
Okay.
As we wrap up,
okay.
sorry, I'm gonna take your idea because it's something we kind of talked about with, and it's obviously it's self-aggrandizing, but I feel like one of the things that the IPCPR needs to do, they do booth awards, but they don't do media awards, and I feel like Yeah, there's probably a couple media outlets that are consistently going to get the award every year, but I feel like there needs to be a little bit of recognition for that hard work, and whether it's a plaque or whether it's just a handshake or just an announcement over the annoying audio as we try to do an interview for the 15th time that day, I feel like there needs to be a recognition of the work that's being done at the show. And up until now, with the show being as long as it is, there really isn't that acknowledgement. There's acknowledgement from the manufacturer's perspective who are saying thanks for doing a great job. But I feel like there needs to be an award for those people that are putting in that work. And I mean, that's just my thought.
So you mean Cigar Dave and Cigar Aficionado would win every year, though?
Would Cigar Aficionado win every year?
No.
I'm saying if they,
I mean, let
for
me
video coverage, I think Cigar.
Who's giving out the award, John?
Well, that's a good question. So
Yeah, that's what I'm kind of going.
I mean,
Here's what we should do.
At this point, I'm an idea guy. I'm not a logistics guy.
Yeah,
We can get into logistics afterwards. But I mean, Cigar Aficionado does a great job. But at the show, does Cigar Aficionado do best in show coverage of the show?
No.
No.
So you just gotta hand out polls to the manufacturers, and then just
The problem with Cigar Aficionado's coverage, John, is it all goes to Insider. That's what I think a big problem with their coverage is, and they missed the boat with that.
Yeah.
But I do agree with the concept that, because look, there's guys like Cigar Federation and Stogie Review who have been doing what they're doing. Stogie Review's been doing what they're doing for 10 years. Brian didn't have Ben with him this year. He had someone else. And I tell you, that guy Brian, look at all the stuff. Hustling, yeah. You guys are hustling, yeah.
Well, I mean, so let me just throw it out there. I don't even think we'd make the top 10, but
I wouldn't either. I wouldn't either.
I think there's some media outlets out there that do deserve recognition for the work they do at the show, and I think that needs to be, it's unofficially being recognized right now by the manufacturers, and I think it needs to be officially recognized. Just, what does a plaque cost? $50? Like, show a little bit of love, show a little bit of recognition for the people that are coming out there and supporting the manufacturers and providing an advertising stream for them and promoting the product out there. There's a lot of people that put a lot of work in, and I think it's probably long overdue to give a little bit of love out to the media. Just throwing it out there.
Yeah. Maybe the Cigar Media Association should give that award out.
Yeah.
Does that still exist?
I don't know. I'm not a member, so.
So let me ask a question. So just go around. Who do you think, excluding yourself, should get the award this year?
Do you disqualify people for early starts?
Yes.
Okay.
No, but they did an excellent job regardless.
Sure.
Yeah, if we didn't disqualify them for early starts, I'd probably say Half Wheel. They do great.
Yeah. I would say they just for quality and entertainment and informational. I would give it to SigFed for the videos.
No way.
The videos is fantastic.
Oh, absolutely,
No way.
John.
The audio,
Absolutely.
The audio is great.
No way.
Maybe you could have a video. You have a video category and some other category.
Yeah, I'm gonna split it between you guys, FigFed and Stogie Review.
Yeah, just bend over and take it, man. It's an accolade.
I would say Half Wheel. It's the elephant in the room. I think Half Wheel for however they get their coverage.
They did a great job.
They did a great job. They do a great job every year. They bring their crew. They give 100%, 110%, as we say in hockey. I think that needs to be recognized. I think Stogie Review is long overdue at being recognized. And again, I think it doesn't have to be a big official thing, but I think some of that love needs to be given back to some of those people that kill it.
I agree.
All right, one last question, then we're gonna wrap it up. Brian Burnett wants to know what we think about having Consumer Day at the show. I know Coop's got a very big opinion on this.
For what purpose, though?
Can't do it.
Just to give the consumers a taste of what everybody else gets. I mean, to me, I think it's similar to a lot of the festivals that are out there. I wouldn't see it being much different, or like a big smoke type of thing. I wouldn't see it as much different than that for them. But I'm not. I think they maybe feel excluded, that they're not allowed to come in, and they're thinking there's some great stuff happening behind the scenes.
The only way you could do it now at FDA is you'd have to charge them, and you wouldn't be able to give out samples.
Right.
So it would have to be like that. The problem is that here's the problem. it's a buying show,
Yeah.
and you don't want consumers on the floor during that time. We have enough time with media going there, but the end problem with it is that if you did a consumer day the day after, you'd have a bigger problem with people on the trade show floor throughout the week.
Right.
And it's unfortunate. I wish there was a better way around it, because I would love to see this booth concept go into an expo concept. That's what I'd love to see this like translate to.
Right.
And yeah, I think if Cigar Aficionado has their thing, but it's way too expensive to go.
Right.
So I'm going to talk about this because we talked about this a couple weeks ago on the show, and we spitballed a bunch of ideas. What you need to do, in my opinion, is you need to abrupt a Big Smoke, or whatever name you want to give it. You need to abrupt that near the end of the IPCPR, where you can have, to June's point, you've got a different trade show within a trade show. It's not in the same location, because I agree with Coop. The logistics of having it on a manufacturer's floor, it's not going to fly. There's too many. There's no way to make it work. So if you can have a separate location where manufacturers show up, and there's a meet and greet and some glad handing, and you charge a fee like Big Smoke, where they get a sampler pack of some of the new product, I think that would bring back some of the excitement and brings back some of the money of the event. And it's not necessarily a selling event, but I think you got to think, for the next 6 months after the show, you're priming your direct consumers about these new products that are coming out from the show and getting them excited to go back to their B&M wherever they're located to buy those products.
Yeah.
I always wondered why the
idea.
CAA never did that. It was the Manufacturers Trade Association, like just creating an expo.
Yeah.
You do it that way. Maybe you have a different organization do it and run it.
Yeah.
What is TPE's policy? I'm just kind of, because I wonder if that would be another option.
Yeah, I don't
You
know.
talk
I don't know.
about-
I'm not sure how strict it is in regards to who's able to attend.
Yeah, I'm talking about possibly going next year.
Yeah.
So,
All right. Any other thoughts before we wrap it up, guys?
No, man, I'm good.
All right.
Well,
So,
good, great.
John, tell everybody where to find your IPCPR coverage.
I don't know. What if? No, I'm just kidding. Go to
What?
Cigar. I mean, I feel bad because we've been like blowing up Facebook, and I feel like a bit of a social media whore lately. But if you go to Cigar Federation on Facebook, we've been posting our daily videos, which I'm working day, night, morning, and Shooter has been doing a great job working on that as well. So you can go to Cigar Federation on Facebook. You can go to the Cigar Federation channel on YouTube. Or you can go to YouTube directly at Cigar Federation. We've still got another day of videos to put up. So I apologize to everybody who's being spammed, but we've still got some great content coming up for the last day, and you're not going to want to miss that.
All right, Eric, how about you?
So we have a sort of a hub post on cigardojo.com where we'll, in the next 2 months, start releasing articles about each of the things that we thought were interesting. And one of those things will have some sort of awards of our own, like, best place to get coffee in the show, that kind of stuff. So we'll look for that in the next coming weeks.
Okay.
Oh,
How about
we
you,
never
Will?
talked about food.
Well, you can go to cigar-coop.com. We'll have coverage for the rest of the year on the products. We're not going to on primetime. We may be touching on some IPCPR topics. Bear did talk me into doing a Giuliani special edition.
Good. Then I don't have to
Yeah, I know you didn't want to touch that one, but we are going to be breaking down the Giuliani speech on a special edition. But in general, I think Aaron, I think we're going to probably do bits and pieces probably of IPCPR throughout the next few. But this was the recap show.
Perfect.
And then I think we have Dave Burks on Thursday. Some of us
Next Thursday.
It's next Thursday.
It better not be this Thursday, or I'm going to flip out.
No.
Okay, okay, good. I thought it was this Thursday. So yeah, so stay tuned. It will be more product centric, and it will trickle out slowly. But there's still some stuff I find I have to go validate, so it takes a little longer for the way I do the product coverage. You can't. Sometimes you forget to ask the questions, so just stay tuned. There'll be stuff probably going into next month.
All right. Well, Gina, I want to thank you guys. We know you guys had a really busy week this past week. It's only been a couple days since you've been back. You probably, if you've already recovered or you're still recovering. So we really appreciate that. And we want to thank everybody that's watching or that's going to watch. Really appreciate your support. Thanks again, guys. We love having you on the show. So thanks, everybody. And we will catch you on some follow-up videos. Thanks.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks.